Hello, everybody. I am here today with one of my favorite people, Rochelle from Crime and Coffee. Crime and Coffee, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Today, I have Rochelle on to help me read out this lawsuit. I saw this morning, and I was able to pull up the documents for it, or the lawsuit in total for it. I cannot read out 79 pages, so I asked Rochelle to help me with that. Are you ready, Rochelle?
I am. Let's get this Diddy
Okay.
show on the road.
Oh man, this guy. All right. So in March of this year, we had in the United States Federal Court, Southern District of New York, Rodney Jones as the plaintiff. Rodney Jones versus Sean Combs, Justin Dior Combs, Ethiopia Habtemariam. I don't want to butcher her name, but I'm not sure of that one. So Lucian Charles Grange, Christina Coram, who is also considered she's being compared to Maxwell from the Epstein case. Shalice Records Studios, Love Records, Motown Records, Universal Music Group, Combs Global Enterprises, John and Jane Doe's 1 through 10, and ABC Corporations 1 through 10. Now, in this one, this is a complaint. It's a civil action. This is a civil lawsuit that Jones has brought against these defendants.
So I also noticed here, Crimes Unhinged, that there is a trigger warning. I'm just going to go ahead and read this out if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
There is trigger warning for this lawsuit. This document contains highly graphic information of a sexual nature, including, I'm just going to wait till we're in the 3 minute, including essay. Additionally, there are graphic images of the aftermath of, I'm trying to wait till 3 minutes in because you'll get struck. Okay.
No, I appreciate that.
There is a trigger warning. Please understand this has to do with minors, essay, workers. How do you say this without getting struck?
Paid S workers.
Paid S workers, ST, and the legal distribution of firearms and narcotics. Sorry, if you have anything like this, you have to do it after the 3 minute mark.
Right.
Because anything before 3 minutes, you'll get struck. So I
I appreciate that. As we are reading through, and because you have been doing this a lot longer than I have, as I'm reading through, because we'll start reading the lawsuit here. When I'm reading through, do I have to be really careful on the words I use at this point?
No, we're after the 3 minute mark now.
Are we? Sorry. Oh, you're right. We are. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
And we put on your thumbnail that contained adult content.
I did, and I made sure that it states that this is definitely not for children. It is not for kids to watch.
So I'm not sure who you have here in your chat. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but welcome.
Sunmin. That's Sunmin.
Sunmin?
Yeah.
Hello, Sunmin.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start reading this. And I didn't say. So I have a problem reading completely today. It will tire my eyes out. So Rochelle is going to help me read some of this. But I'll go ahead and start. And then Rochelle, I'll let you take over.
Yes.
This is after we're done, I'm going to bed. So
and like I said, if I take over and you have something to add to it, because like I said, I am not a P. Diddy follower. I think that this guy, he would be too triggering for me to follow this case. So if there's anything when I'm reading that you need to say, cut me off.
And right back when you're reading or when I'm reading, if you have something to say, cut me off.
Balitzer has a question for you.
Baltazar. Hi, Balti. Absolutely, there will be more content like this. So this is, yeah, there will be a lot more content. So let's go ahead and start reading. I'll start with Plaintiff Rodney Lil Rod Jones, or Mr. Jones, hereby alleges as and for his complaint against defendant Sean Combs, Mr. Combs, defendant Justin Dior Combs, J. Combs, defendant Lucian Charles Grange, Mr. Grange, defendant Ethiopia Haptimariam, Mrs. Haptimariam, defendant Christina Coram, Mrs. Coram, defendant Chalice Record Studios, or CRS, defendant Love Records, or LR, and defendant Motown Records, MR, defendant Universal Music Group, UMG, defendant Combs Global Enterprises, CGE, John and Jane Doe's 1 through 10, 80 corporations 1 through 10 as follows. Anything on that, Rochelle?
It's basically just what you said earlier up on the top part anyway.
Yeah.
So
it was literally a tongue twister to do that, though. All right. This court, or jurisdiction in venue. This court has personal jurisdiction over the defendants under and consistent with constitutional requirements of due process, in that the defendants acting directly or through his agents or apparent agents committed one or more of the following. A, the transaction of any business within the state. B, the making of any contract within the state. C, the commission of a tortious act within its district. And D, the ownership, use, or possession of any real estate in the state. From September 2022 to the date of this filing, defendants have consistently and purposefully availed themselves of the privilege of conducting activities within New York, thus invoking the benefits and protections of New York law. In return for these benefits and protections, defendants must submit to the burdens of litigation in New York. This litigation arises from or relates to the tortious activities defendants visited upon defendants in the states of New York, California, Florida, and the United States Virgin Island. This tortious conduct violated United States federal RICO laws. So really quickly, Rochelle, as you and me were speaking earlier, and I sat there and I was saying how in the newest case against Diddy, he is being charged under the RICO laws.
Mm-hmm.
The businesses themselves in this lawsuit, if let's just for a second say if Mr. Jones is a victim in the newest case against Diddy, these all right here, these businesses that I stated earlier, can lose a lot. They can lose their businesses. They can lose their money if things happen inside the buildings that they owned. Those buildings that they owned, they can lose. They will be forfeited. They're gone.
So listen, for your viewers, like I said, I am not P. Diddy versed. I never liked P. Diddy. I'm an older woman. I am a New Kids on the Block fan. So I'm so far removed from P. Diddy, it's unbelievable. So I just have a question here. So what I'm getting from this is these companies have probably arranged, so like a gathering, things. These were the promoters. These were the ones that were saying, hey, we're going to do a video shoot here. We're going to do this and that. And then all these people they arranged to go there. Is that why they would be, basically they're the ones that paved the way for this to happen?
In a lot of ways, yes. So what it comes down to basically is, let's say that, and instead of using ABC because they're too big for me to take on, I'll use one of P. Diddy's companies, right? So he has, I'm going to scroll back up for a second. So Love Records, we're going to use Love Records because that is a P. Diddy company or business, right? So let's say that and we'll read through this lawsuit, because I think that some of what's in this lawsuit, possibly if Mr. Jones is a victim in the newest case of Diddy, right, it's going to matter. These are going to matter in that case. So if any of these acts happen within my example of the Diddy company, right, then therefore Diddy's company can be taken away from him. All the money that was gained through this can be taken back. It is all up for grabs. So that's why I say, if I'm shocked that ABC is mentioned in this lawsuit.
So here's a question I have, and I'm sorry, but
No,
maybe I'm having the same questions that your guests are having, but I'm going to kind of put this into an Adelson question, because I do know that case. Is so if Sean Diddy Combs, P Diddy, whatever the fuck he wants to call himself these days.
I'm just gonna call him Puffy today, or Pity. I keep calling him Pity.
If he did what the Adelsons did and have a lot of his money and businesses tied up in trust, then they can't touch those.
You know what? You're right on that. So if he has money that is aside, like taken aside, say from he has many, like I think I named 3 of his different businesses. He's a global. How do you?
God only knows how much money he has in overseas.
Well, we know that he's worth well over $1 billion at this point.
Christ.
So, which only, I'm going to sidetrack for a second, which only goes to prove why his $50 million offer to the courts for his bail was absolutely denied. Is because he's worth well over $1 billion.
That's like pennies to him.
Yeah, exactly. That would be like me going and saying, I'll give you 50 cents.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. So these businesses, I'd be concerned if I was ABC. I'd be concerned if I was any of these businesses named in a lawsuit against, like, yeah.
Well, though, they also could put these people, I'll play the devil's advocate here. They also could put these people as a defendant, right?
But go ahead and give the but.
Yeah. To get them to say, our ass needs to be saved and he is not worth what's coming down on us.
Exactly.
So maybe the next lawsuit, they're no longer. So I would be watching that. Who no longer is on the defendant list?
No, because I can almost, and again, we don't know in the press conferences and everything else, we do not know who else is going to be charged in the newest case against Diddy, which he's in jail for. But without knowing all of the people, and we know there are other people, because as I said in my other video, in the press conference, the attorney sat there and named victims, persons. So, defendants, sorry. Yeah, victims too. So victims, persons, defendants, that's plural, meaning there are more than one. So we know that there are others in there, but it could come down to the fact that these others who are not named are saying, hey, you know what? Here, I will tell you everything. Here, just take me off of this and I will give you anything you want to know.
And that's exactly what I said. Give it a couple weeks and be able to compare from this one to the last one to whatever comes out next, and see who's fallen off those defendants' positions, because then you'll start to see
witnesses.
Who becomes witnesses, and things like that, because then you'll see, okay, who's flipping. And there's going to be flippers in this.
Oh, yeah. I would say, they're going to save their asses.
Their money is their livelihoods, their money, their reputation more than anything is. And you know what? I'm going to say, and this is allegedly, because this is a lawsuit,
yes,
and they have been named, ABC has been named in this lawsuit. So we are not putting out anything in there that is not out in the public domain.
Oh, absolutely. And again, like you said, these are all allegedly, because until it's settled, or they go to court or whatever happens, we don't know what happened at the studios. We personally were not there. We don't know. So it's all allegedly, and I'm only reading what's in the lawsuit.
What's in the public domain, absolutely. And the thing is, we've all seen it through the Me Too movement, all of this, where higher ups are involved and they get fired and things like this. So that's another thing in this madness to look for in these companies, is who recently got fired.
That would be another one that I can dive into.
Why did Diddy
Why did Diddy diddle?
Yeah, he
Because he had the money and power.
it's insane. It's insane.
That is basically it. Money and power, a lot, like, gives your brain the opinion of, I can get away with whatever I want to get away with because I have the money, and he was given a key to New York City. He has the money. He has the power.
Here's the thing, though. Crimes Untangled. Here's the thing. I cannot, as a normal human being, understand how this happens just because you get money. Because if I won the lottery tomorrow and I was well off, this would not go through my head. So at somewhere, if P. Diddy or whoever the fuck he is now, this has been in his brain forever. He's just had, the money has blown up his ego so much that he felt he was safe to act on.
Exactly.
So he was definitely a messed up human being even before the money.
Oh, no, because it doesn't happen. This kind of activity or behavior doesn't just appear in your brain because now you have money, right?
That's right. And Kendall's
been there all along, but now that you have money, you feel that that safety in, I can get away with whatever I want to.
That's right. He was, and Kendall said it too. You've got to be a fucked up person in the head before frame. Absolutely, Kendall. I 100% agree with you. That's why I'm saying he was a disturbed, evil person before the fame. And the fame just allowed him the ability to become who he really was.
Or allowed him to show who he really was.
It allowed him the security.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because celebrities out there,
Bill Cosby,
they get away with everything until it blows up so bad. Look how long Epstein got away with what he did. Look how long.
Except for, what the funny thing about Epstein is, and I know we're off anybody who doesn't know, me and Rochelle, we go off the rails all the time. But it's funny because when it comes to Epstein, I didn't know who the hell he was until everything started coming out, and then the royals were being drug into it, and then all these other names were being drug in. I didn't even know who he was.
I bet you're going to see a similarity to, and nobody, I know your crew here doesn't know me, but I'm a Canadian. I live in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, Canada. I can't do the song, sorry.
And that's a shame because I can sing your anthem off by heart.
I can't even sing our anthem by heart.
And so I am a huge royalist. But anyway, you're going to see exactly what Prince Andrew did. You're going to soon see people coming out and trying to clear their names. Diddy's crimes disappointed many Koreans who liked his songs. Diddy's crime is, I'm sure,
Americans.
I'm sure fans all over the world are so disappointed in him because young, aspiring musicians, even just fans alone, he was a role model This guy was a role model.
You know, he was, Rochelle, except for, you know, I'm only I'm only a year younger than you, and I've told you before that, but for legal term there, but for Biggie, I wouldn't have known who Sean Combs was. Um, and when you look at it, it's like even here in America, Diddy's crime has disappointed a lot of Americans. However, I'm going to throw this one at you, Rochelle, just because I enjoy saying, could you please take back Justin Bieber and Drake?
No, I
Take
don't
them
want
back
to.
to Canada. We don't
I
need
don't.
them here.
No, I like. Listen, young Bieber. I wish he could
Oh,
come
he was
back
so.
to young Bieber.
Oh,
I.
remember Baby? Do you remember when that song Baby came out?
Oh yes.
Oh,
Well,
he was so adorable. What happened? It was money. Money happened.
yeah.
Or
So, but
maybe Diddy happened.
he I supported. Yeah. Everybody's like, well, we'll get off Bieber, so let's get off Bieber. They're
Okay.
not wanting to
Yeah.
talk about
No,
Bieber.
I love Justin Bieber. I made my son sing, like my kids have beautiful singing voices. And so my oldest, I used to make him sing that song, Baby. And he sounded so adorable. I love Justin Bieber. Don't get me wrong. I don't like some things he's done as an adult. But so I'm not going hard on Justin Bieber.
No, I don't think they want to talk about Justin
Yeah,
Bieber.
so we'll move on. We will definitely move on from him. I
Yeah.
still adore his music from when he was younger and even a couple of years ago. So we'll move on from him. But
We'll get back on to P.
yeah,
Diddy
yeah.
here.
So I'll go back to, let me read this next part. So jurisdiction and venue. This court has personal jurisdiction over the
You've read
defendants.
that.
Oh, did I? Okay, so sorry. Thank you. I told you how far did I go?
You're at number 3. You're at
Thank
number
you.
3.
I told you I have a migraine and I can't see out of one of my eyes. So this litigation arises from or relates to the tortious activities defendants visited upon defendants in the states of New York, California, Florida, and the United States Virgin Islands. This tortious conduct violated United States federal RICO laws. That's where I left off. Now I remember. Requiring defendants to litigate these claims in the district does not offend traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice. Plaintiffs' claims arise from some conduct occurring by defendants in New York. So we'll go down to the parties. Plaintiff Rodney Jones is an American artist and music producer. Mr. Jones resides in the states of New York and California. Defendant Sean Combs is a rapper and record executive popularly known by his stage names, and here we go, Rochelle, Puff Daddy.
You don't need to read them all. People know them.
But it's so fun to make fun of, it's so fun to make fun of him. But well, I'm just going to name a few. Puff Daddy, Puffy, P. Diddy, Diddy, and then so on and so on. Mr. Combs came to fame in the early 90s with his record label, Bad Boy Records. He rose to prominence in the music and entertainment industry over the decades and is you want to say that word for me?
Regularly.
Thank you. Referred to as a hip-hop mogul. Mr. Combs resides at 200 South Mapleton Drive, Beverly Hills, California, 90024.
Oh, I should have told you to. If you come up to an address again, don't read it out.
Sorry, it was on here.
Yeah, no, because we actually should have redacted this. I didn't realize.
I didn't think about that either at the time. Because I called you so quickly. I was like, hey, I want to do this. I didn't even get a chance to go back and
because YouTube doesn't like addresses.
Yeah. What is it? The D.
So you know what? Skip all these people because all their addresses are there.
Well, I can say the defendants. So
yeah.
It's going to be Sean Combs, and there's his lovely picture. We can go down to,
Hey, Win, welcome.
Oh, hi. We're going to go to defendant Justin Dior Combs, who is Sean Combs' son, one of his sons. We got Lucian Charles Grange, who was a former CEO of Defendant Motown Records, the parent company of Love Records. I'm trying to do this in a way to where I can name the defendants without their addresses. Okay.
Well,
And
you've already named them, right? You
I
already
didn't name.
named them.
No, I haven't. I've only named one. So I'm just going to say Ethiopia Habtemariam. She's the one that's been compared to Maxwell from the Epstein case. She was chief of staff to Diddy Combs. And then we have, oh no, sorry, not Ethiopia. So sorry. It was Christina Coram that has been compared to Maxwell. She was basically the chief of staff to Diddy. And then we have Motown Records is a record label with a principal place of business. We have Universal Music Group is a record label with principal place of business. Love Records, the same thing. And the Combs Enterprises, which is a diverse portfolio of businesses and investments that includes music, fashion, fragrance, beverage, marketing, film, television, and media properties. And they have a principal place of business located in New York. Now we have, I hope it doesn't have, okay. So then we have Rodney Lil Rod Jones. Rodney Lil Rod Jones Jr. is from Chi-Town. He was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Mr. Jones is the second oldest son and fourth child out of 9 siblings. Mr. Jones comes from a long line of gospel music influencers. Mr. Jones started playing instruments at the age of 5. He began playing drums in church, and at the age of 13, he picked up playing the guitar. From 13 to present day, Mr. Jones has taught himself to play over 13 instruments. I can't play the guitar because of my pinkies, but I have tried. I'm not that musically talented, but he has been known as a child prodigy.
He's following, his family's basically following the lines of the Jackson 5.
You know, I was thinking that too when I was just looking up at that picture. I was like, okay, so he comes from a long line of people who use instruments, who are musically talented. I mean, Jackson 5, they are all musically talented.
And Tito just passed away.
Say that?
Tito Jackson just passed away.
Oh, how did I miss that? Wow. I didn't know that.
I think he was 70, 76.
Yeah, none of them are young anymore. Well, you know what? I'm going to take that back because I love Janet Jackson. And so I'll say she's going to be young forever because I grew up with her music. But Mr. Jones is considered a musical prodigy. His talents have led him to produce and create a commercial marketplace for music that has been recorded by some of the most prestigious and highly acclaimed artists in music history. Throughout the duration of his career, Mr. Jones has worked the south side of Chicago music scene, playing with the following legendary greats: Georgia Mass Choir, Donald Lawrence, and the Clark Sisters, and Smokey Norfolk. On or about August 2022, Mr. Jones received a call from Mr. Combs requesting he produce several songs on a rhythm and blues album titled The Love Album Off the Grid, or Love Album. Mr. Jones agreed, and his life has been detrimentally impacted ever since. During the relevant period, defendants John and Jane Doe's 1 through 10 are currently unknown individuals and or employees who aided and or abetted in the commission of conduct complained of herein, or who either acted within the scope of their employment. Defendants ratified, embraced, and added to this conduct. As parties engaged in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint to add these individual employees by name. Rochelle?
Yep.
What do you think?
When
we talk about other people who are going to be coming up in this newest charge against the legal charges, right? Mm-hmm. Against Diddy. What do you think about that?
This blows my mind. Like this, I can see this being hundreds and hundreds of victims.
Wait till we go down further. You may be shocked.
Oh.
During the relevant period, defendants ABC corporations 1 through 10 are currently unknown entities who employed plaintiff or aided and or abetted in the commission of conduct complained of herein. As the parties engaged in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint and to add these entities or individuals by name.
Wow.
The summary of events. From September 2022 to November 2023, Mr. Jones produced 9 songs on Mr. Combs' Love album. Mr. Jones lived with Mr. Combs for months at a time, spending holidays, birthdays, and missing major family events. Mr. Jones resided at Mr. Combs' residence located in LA, California, New York City, and Miami, Florida. Mr. Jones also spent several weeks on a yacht rented by Mr. Combs in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Another side note, just because I don't know if because I know you didn't get my notifications, but yesterday in my video that I put out, I actually had found a video that showed, and I do have the lawsuit against him too, but Christian Combs, which is one of Sean Combs' sons, who also goes by King, because he also does music. He's a model, all of that stuff. Sean Combs was included in a lawsuit against his son for having rented the yacht that his son assaulted a victim on.
Oh, geez.
So
And
like
Kendall here says, dude just needs to be under the jail. Absolutely, Kendall. Absolutely.
We have a few places for people like him. Yeah, I agree. Let's see.
So you're at 27.
No, it wasn't. I was trying to pull that up really quickly just because I like that one. So throughout his time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones witnessed, experienced, and endured many things that went far beyond his role as a producer on the Love album.
Well, he was in every resident he was in. So
at least through New York, Miami, LA, and yeah, every single one.
Mm-hmm.
The claims raised in this complaint have been corroborated through witness statements, video, audio recordings, and images that Mr. Jones has in his possession.
He
Mr.
covered
Combs,
his ass.
He did. And actually, when we go down a little further, there are photos in this lawsuit, and you'll be able to see them. So Mr. Combs required Mr. Jones to record him constantly. On several occasions, Mr. Combs took Mr. Jones' cell phone and began recording himself. As a result, Mr. Jones has secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity.
This guy thought he was so untouchable. To be so egotistical to think that just put videos out there on somebody else's cell phone.
With today, even let's see, when was my first cell phone with video? Do you remember when we got our first cell phones that had the ability to like take videos and stuff like that? I'm trying to remember. I know it was when my kids were little.
I'm really bad to ask that question because I did not. I balked cell phones for a very long time. I think I was 27 when I got my first cell phone.
I have embarrassing videos that I took on my cell phones of my kids when they were younger. So I know it was at least in 2005. So I'm trying to think. In the 90s, I had a what you would call, they were like bricks. It was the very like. From it.
My first cell phone was a BlackBerry. So
was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and
I had a brick.
I don't think it had video, but
no, my brick phone didn't. It literally was like you couldn't even text message on the brick. And man, I am sounding so old. But you're 1 year older than me.
Kendall says you ladies have really good voices for this. I'm not normally into podcasts, but I can just chill with it in the background. Oh, thank you
Aw,
so much, Kendall.
thank you. That was very sweet.
Okay, so you are at
30.
30.
I pulled it up right there. So I'll go on. Mr. Jones has secured irrefutable evidence of the acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. Really quickly, I'm gonna continue reading this, but whenever I see ketamine right now, and knowing that Pete Puffy was also in LA, anytime I hear ketamine, it automatically takes me back to one of the people charged in Matthew Perry's overdose, which
Yes.
was her. She was called the ketamine queen. That was in LA also. So whenever I see that now, that's the first thing I think of. I'm like, oh, I wonder. But I can't, obviously, I can't guarantee that. And I'm not blaming her, but that's just the first thought I have in my head when I hear that.
That is one case when it does go, if it's televised or whatever, I will be following it because, well, Matthew Perry is a Canadian. So
Oh, Rochelle, that's hilarious because I always considered him I didn't know that he was Canadian.
Yeah, he's
I
Canadian.
loved him. Like he was one of my friends, like going to the show. But I'm like, Matthew Perry, I missed him so much. I loved him so much.
Mhm.
So
Like when that came out that he passed away, I was instantly, somebody did this to him.
and we're going, why you and me, I swear, in some ways is the worst thing for people, but it's fun.
Well,
'Cause-
but the problem is right now we're doing it's the celebrity, right? So
It-
and like
right.
you haven't really went off the rails because you were speaking of what ketamine brought up for you. So
Right.
it's really not going off the rails,
True.
but and it's another celebrity. It's still
is.
showing that this
Is a problem.
is a problem in celebrities. Like you could go down a list of things that celebrities are getting away with, like buying their kids into good universities. It's a problem all
But
around.
I will go off the rails for 1 second, only to state the fact that in Matthew Perry's case, in his overdose, we actually have the text messages to where one of these people, and it wasn't the ketamine queen, but it was his doctor, who was saying stuff like, oh, look at this fool, or how much money can I get off of him?
Yeah.
And everybody knew, even Friends has been off the air for how long now?
Oh, too
Like,
long.
I know it's in syndicate, it's in like reruns and stuff like that. And so we still watch it. And that's not what I mean when I say off the air. But the show ended years ago. And we all knew that Matthew Perry had suffered from
addiction
after an injury, and he got addicted to like Vicodin and stuff like that. We all knew. Everybody knew. And this guy took advantage of it.
Because in the episodes, the later end of the episodes, when Matthew Perry got a job away from everybody and he was off the show for a while, and he'd make special appearances, that was when he was going through treatment.
Right.
So
what I mean by that, though, is that everybody knew back then when the show ended. And my son was like 3 years old when that show ended. He's now like 26. Yeah. So, I mean, that's that long ago. We all knew that Matthew Perry was already struggling through something, but it just shows you that people who are writing prescriptions don't care. And they will, when it comes to money, like with Matthew Perry, how much money can I get off this fool? Right.
Yeah. And like, that's a rabbit hole. I'm just bringing you out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's a rabbit hole that you
It's just so frustrating.
Yes, that's a rabbit hole
we cared about.
That's a rabbit hole you could go down for hours.
I will on another time.
Yes, I will pull you back to.
Thank you. All right, thank you. That one just frustrates me, and I'm going to move on. So, I'll go back. The displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms, which we know that during the raid, firearms were taken and they were defaced, which is a federal crime.
Yeah, so that would mean, so again, I'm Canadian, so firearms here is not an issue like it is in the States.
Oh, you have
And
no idea.
before any American jumps on me, I'm not coming after your Fifth Amendment of owning guns, or your Second Amendment, I think it is. Yes.
Rochelle, I'm going to stick up for you for 1 second because I will say that when it comes to certain firearms, which are some of the ones that he had taken away from him that were defaced, they were like AR-15. They are guns.
They're military weapons
that are not needed. You don't need that to hunt, okay? Because I used to live in Washington, and even in Washington State, not DC, but even in Washington State, the guys that were hunting, and I don't like shooting Bambi, so I'm not a hunter, but even the guys out there who were hunting for deer and other things, they weren't using military weapons to do it.
Yeah.
They're not needed. So I'm on your side when it comes to some of the problems with the way America treats firearms. I'll just say that.
So to me, that means they've scraped off the serial numbers, things like that.
That is exactly what it means.
Okay.
And it's illegal. We are not allowed here. If you own any firearm, whether it be a handgun, a rifle, a AR-15, whatever it is, if you have one, you are not allowed to scrape off the serial number. You are not allowed to deface it so that it can't be traced back to you.
All right.
That is illegal here. So, okay. Mr. Combs providing laced alcoholic beverages, to minors and sex workers at his homes in California, New York, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Florida. Mr. Combs' Chief of Staff, Christina Coram, or KK, instructing her staff to retrieve drugs so she can provide it to Mr. Combs for his consumption. Christian Combs, which I spoke about earlier, drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, which I also already went over. I believe I went over that one too. Young Miami's cousin and or assistant sexually assaulting Mr. Jones. I'll get into that one later. Oh man. I did not realize that Cuba Gooding Jr. was going to come up in this one specifically because I had watched a video earlier about this, but I didn't know that he was going to come up in this one and show me the money. I'm having a hard time with this one, but this one's a hard one to swallow. But after Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually harassing and assaulting Mr. Jones, rapper redacted on Mr. Combs' yacht, consorting with underage girls, sex workers, and R&B singer redacted in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home, consorting with underage girls and sex workers.
So the reason those are redacted is because there's underage.
Yes. Right.
Because
that's so bothersome.
Because I'm thinking, why was Cuba Gooding Jr. named? But then I realized, okay, because there's underage victims. That's why it's redacted. So there is a footnote. Well,
rapper 3, I want to know, and I would have to go down, and I'm not going to go down it right now, but I would have to go down a rabbit hole to figure out who that rapper is.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't really have to go that far down a rabbit hole, because if you look, there's a footnote for that.
Oh, you're right. I just didn't.
Number 3.
I didn't want to know that.
And number 3 is a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. So you really don't have a far rabbit hole.
I don't, you know what though? Oh.
And number 4 is a footnote, and he is a Grammy Award-winning R&B singer who had trouble with the law enforcement after assaulting.
But it doesn't say his name on that one, so I'm wondering.
But again, you don't have a rabbit hole. You don't have that far to go down because you just have to look up for this guy's name. This
God,
or
I just,
a Baja billionaire who was assaulted by an R&B singer.
you're right. I will do that later, but
So number 3 and number 4, you really got a good hint here in the footnotes
you're
of
right.
what happened.
You are very right on that. That is so crazy. Nicki Minaj. All right. Give me, you know what, Rochelle? I have to deal with a dog right now. Do you want to take over from here for a second?
Sure. So we're at the Chalice recording studio shooting. So 31, on and about September 12th, 2022, Mr. Combs held a writers and producers camp at Chalice Recording Studio. Oh, there's an address, so I'm going to get it off the screen very quickly. I do apologize, people. 32, present present at this camps were Mr. Combs, his son Justin Combs, and Justin, friend named G. Mr. G is a 30-year-old tall African American male. In addition to these individuals, other musicians were present at the camp. This writer has spoken to several musicians who attended the camp. 35. One evening during this camp, Mr. Combs, J. Combs, and G were in a heated conversation. 36. That conversation was moved out of the studio and into a restaurant adjacent to where Mr. Jones was sitting. Mr. Jones was approximately 2 feet away from the bathroom when gunshots rang out. Mr. Jones recalls hearing multiple gunshots. Jesus Christ. 38. Mr. Jones immediately went
You know
into
what, Rochelle? Really quickly, I heard
Yep.
you say that. I'm back. I heard you say that. Oh, geez. But I think that when we go down a little lower, you're going to actually see the bathroom with the blood in it from what's going on in this. So
Oh
keep
my
going.
God.
So keep going.
Mr. Jones immediately went into a state of shock and feared that he would be shot next. Mr. Jones genuinely believed that he would be shot through the door due to how close he was. After the shooting ended, a crowd gathered around the restroom. Oh gosh, this is horrible. G was
Actually, yes,
lying.
those photos are down below. So keep, like, you'll
Okay.
see them.
G was lying on the bathroom floor in a fetal position, holding his stomach and bleeding out of his hip area. Everyone stood around looking upon G. Frustrated by the lack of aid to G, Mr. Jones dropped everything, ran to G, and immediately began placing pressure on G's gunshot wound to his stomach. As he was applying pressure on his stomach, Mr. Jones realized that G was gushing blood from another area near his leg and hip. He decided to lift G and placed him to sit on the toilet. Mr. Jones asked the crowd to call an ambulance. Mr. Jones lifted G and brought him to the ambulance at the studio's front. At this time, Mr. Combs and Justin disappeared to another part of the studio. Mr. Combs gave strict instructions to inform the police that he had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Mr. Jones to lie to police by telling them that G was shot standing outside the studio by a drive-by assailant. Are you kidding me?
You know what, though?
Hold
Really
on.
quickly,
One second.
Rochelle,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead. You go first.
I'm trying. This was at Chalice Recording Studios. So this is one of the reasons Chalice is brought into it.
Yes. So, like I said, well, really quickly, when we're saying okay, never mind, because it does say Jay Combs. Because when you said Justin earlier, I just want to make sure that everybody realize that Justin Bieber has already put out a statement about what's going on right now. And so this lawsuit right here has nothing to do with Justin Bieber. So when you said Justin, I just wanted to point that out. This has nothing to do with Justin Bieber.
And Kendall here has a question. So
okay.
So
Well, I can say that from what I have, because of everything that's going on, I've watched videos with Cuba Gooding Jr. And when it happened with his, I think he didn't plead guilty, but he settled, I think. It's hard because I'd have to go back and read that lawsuit. but against a waitress that he sexually is
Essay.
is said that he did that, like Rochelle said, to a female. But now in this lawsuit, Mr. Gooding Jr. is being accused of other things, and that's where I have to say, I can't say. I don't know personally, and nothing, like, I don't know this lawsuit coming, like a lawsuit on that specifically coming out about Mr. Gooding. But if he happens to be another defendant in what's going on with Puffy, then that's going to bring a whole new level to all of this, right? Because he was he was on Boys in the Hood. He was Show Me the Money. That's going to be so disappointing. But it was already disappointing when he when he essayed a waitress, right? I mean, we were all kind of surprised by that too, because he looked like he was such a good. How do you like Rochelle? Like
wholesome. He comes across very wholesome.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. He comes across as very wholesome, and so that one was shocking too. I mean,
so I have a question. I'm just wondering, has this lawsuit been heard, or is it still pending?
The one against the waitress?
No, the one we're reading right now.
This one is, I don't think that it is settled yet.
Okay.
Because it was only in February of this, or March of this year, that it was filed, I think. So I don't think that, it was filed in March of this year. I don't think it is settled. I don't think this case is done, or this lawsuit is done.
Okay, so it probably hasn't even been heard yet.
I don't think it has. I will dig into that after we're done reading the lawsuit later, and I'll come back to it. So I'm not 100% sure. I don't think that is done yet.
Okay, so
where did you leave off? What number?
I'm at the on page 10 right now. I've read all of page 9.
Okay, so I'll just pull that up so that way everybody can see what you're going through. You're right there?
Yeah, so this is all just news articles of everything that went on. So 47 is Mr. Jones has several corroborating witnesses who spoke with the writer anonymously due to fear of relations from Mr. Combs. Retaliation from Mr. Combs. They have agreed to speak publicly when subpoenaed. Oh, Jesus.
So doesn't that show you right there that even in the newest legal problems that Combs is having, that these people are willing to publicly speak when subpoenaed. Yeah. So there are more witnesses that are willing to speak.
Mr. Jones has the clothing he wore the day and believes it may still have stains and DNA of G's blood. This guy really covered.
Are you seeing the photo now?
Yeah, this guy really covered his ass. Thank God he did.
Oh, yeah.
The following are screenshots of the aftermath of the restroom where G was shot by either Mr. Combs or Jay Combs.
And again, Jay Combs, I believe, is one of, obviously, he's one of Mr. Combs' sons. So when we talk about, when I was going through the indictment and I was reading off all of the names of, because when this first came out and Diddy gave up his passport and blah, blah, blah. And then it turns out that there was like a list of his family members who also surrendered their passports. I was like, wait, why? At first, my brain was like, wait, why are these other family members giving up their passports, right? It's like they're the ones being indicted. But then you look at this, and it's like, oh, okay, well, hold on. There are things coming. There are more things that are going to come out.
Yeah, and when says Combe is a convicted felon, he's not supposed to have possessed any firearms. Thank you, Win. We also have a new viewer, Spartan of Milk. Welcome to the live. He done Diddy did it. Yeah, indictment. It's an indictment. Yeah. So welcome, Spartan, to Crime Unhinged Live.
Hello.
Okay.
Look at this picture though. Just look at that. And then if you I believe that later, and I think that it might be in here, but I know that there were at least 2 people that were trying to say that he was shot, that G, quote unquote G, was shot somewhere else and then walked to the this area.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was in here. They said they
yeah,
said to
okay.
the police that he was shot in the back door entrance to the studio.
Okay, see,
by
because
a drug
I
guy.
took the dogs out. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it stated that there was no way that he would have been able to walk that distance.
No. Because
So he was
so
shot inside the studio. He wasn't able to walk into the studio. He couldn't walk at this point. He was shot in places that there it was not possible. But look at look at that picture. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, it
I'm
truly
anemic. I would no longer be here if I bled that much.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
my
and
God.
then number 50 is clearly G was not shot outside
Oh,
of
there
the
you go.
studio as Mr. Combs instructed his team to report to law enforcement. Mr. Combs and defendants LR, MR, UMG, and CRS provided private security for the writers' camp at the defendant CRS. The security was porous and lackluster at best. 53, the fact that either Mr. Combs and J. Combs were allowed to enter CRS with guns and those guns were not confiscated by security is a clear breach of duty by Mr. Combs, defendant LRMR and UMG to protect Mr. Jones and the other attendees of this writer's camp. Speak up.
No, I have the same problem.
As a result of this shooting, Mr. Jones is severely traumatized. Mr. Jones now suffers from PTSD, severe anxiety, depression, and insomnia. Of course you do, sir. 55, the following is an image of Mr. Combs a couple of hours before G is shot in the restroom of the defendant CRS. So
What did you say about this photo earlier?
I would like to see this photo unredacted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
This photo
Just to see who else is there at the minimum, but
this photo of Mr. Combs was taken at Chalice Recording Studio outside of Studio G hours before G was shot. Defendant Chalice Recording Studios and defendant Sean Combs and Justin Combs representative Sean Hawley provide conflicting and intellectually dishonest accounts concerning the shooting. On or about February 28, 24, defendant CRS sent an Instagram message which alleges the G was shot a half a block away from Chelsea. No, sir, he was not. No, sir.
No.
There's no way.
Walk.
He couldn't walk. And if Mr. Jones has his clothing he wore and he has saved it, that's an intelligent man.
Not only that, but let's say that he did walk. Would there not be
a blood trail?
Right? There would be a bloodline. There would.
So I would, in this case, I would also have to question the police officers at the time that they arrived, because if they said he was shot outside, why was there not an investigation done to it outside? So there's this conspiracy, not this conspiracy, but this.
Can we not consider it that, considering that other people are engaging in lying to them?
True enough. Yep. So this is the Instagram from Chalice. The shooting occurred a half a block away from Chalice, and it was a result of a robbery. There are police reports corroborating this. Please wait for the facts to come out before you start contributing to the defamation of our organization. Okay, so that tells me police are involved.
Rochelle,
yes.
Wait until you see their statement. It's coming up, but wait till you see their statement. It's concerning, and it makes me think of when Oh, which one was shot in LA? I think was Biggie shot in LA because Tupac was shot in Las Vegas, I think. Or I could have those.
Yeah. No, yes.
Might have those mixed up.
Tupac was shot in Vegas.
Okay, so it was Biggie that was shot in LA. And we've come down to the same problem with the LAPD for the most part. And just keep reading and you'll see what I'm saying.
And welcome your mom. Welcome to the live.
Hi.
57, upon information and belief, Sean Hawley, and there is a footnote here. So Sean Hawley previously represented Tory Lanez and Danny Masterson. Oh, there we go.
Oh, wait a minute. He represented Danny Masterson?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, go on.
Okay.
Wow.
Claim that she had evidence the shooting took place several blocks away and that G returned to the studio after being shot. Upon information.
If this shooting had happened several blocks away now, wouldn't there be blood from where it started all the way to the studio?
There would. So
where are those photos?
The police probably realized it was P. Diddy and decided they weren't going to investigate.
Yep. Keep reading.
So upon information and belief, TMZ, and then there's a footnote here. Oh, it's just their website. Oh, no, it isn't. TMZ's lawyer woman comes forward, denies underage claim lawsuit. So I would take note of that, Crimes Unhinged, and check that out.
I got it.
Reports that their law enforcement sources claim that the story that was told to cops that night, namely that the victim was robbed at gunpoint and shot by unknown assailants outside the gunshot victim's G stepped outside of the studio around 3:30 a.m. and was accosted by two individuals, at which point they tried to rob him. The man suffered. Yep.
I looked down at my paper to write real quick. What number are you on?
I'm at 58.
Oh, you're at 58 because I went down further just to make sure that I was on the next page for you. But go on. Sorry.
That's okay because I've got it up on my own screen.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to make sure that everybody who is following or watching knows where we're at. And so I had gone down because I started writing. So go on. Sorry.
So at which point they tried to rob him. The man suffered a gunshot wound. 59. Below is an image of the front of Chalice Recording Studio.
So there we go. So tell me if they have that photo right there, right? Mm-hmm. They should have that photo of the blood trailing into the studio.
Yes. So, but prior to what we just read, P. Diddy said he stepped out back, not out front.
Okay. You're right.
So okay. Number 60. In the photo above, there are a security gate that is being blocked by the white van. 61, upon information and belief, to enter the building, you must buzz the gate and announce what session you are there to attend. 62, once the correct session is confirmed, you then must go past another layer of security before you can enter the reception area. So this totally blows that out of proportion.
This almost makes me think of and I think it was when there was an incident, I believe, and anybody at all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was an incident that happened with Tupac or Biggie in the past to where it happened in a recording studio to where the same things were mentioned, that it was nowhere there. It was an inside job on that too. So go on though.
So 62, once the correct session, I've read that. Sorry, I apologize, guys. 63.
That was my fault.
Once inside the reception area, you must identify yourself, and the receptionist will check to ensure that you are on the list of visitors for the session. Once you are confirmed, you are allowed in. 64, to get to the restroom where G was bleeding out, you would have to follow a maze. Once you've passed that receptionist, you must walk down a long hallway, walk past 3 recording studios, turn left, and go past the lounge area before you arrive at the restroom where G was bleeding out.
So down below, there is, I believe there is also a photo of when you walk into that studio, and it has not a billboard, but it's on the floor. You know, when you go to a restaurant and they have the thing on the ground that's standing up to let you know what the restaurant is offering inside.
Yeah,
So,
it's a sandwich board.
yeah, pretty much. Okay, so when we go down a little further, it'll show you, I believe, a sandwich board of like the different studios.
So 65.
Sorry.
65
Dogs are going crazy.
65 is TMZ also reported that Mr. Combs and Jay Combs were not present in the studio when the police arrived. This is also factually incorrect. 66, Mr. Combs and Jay Combs are both located in Studio G across the parking lot from the building where G was shot near Studio A. Mr. Combs and Jay Combs hid out in recording Studio G while the police investigated and were the first to depart after the officers left. Mr. Combs, pardon?
Any thoughts on that?
Oh, he knew. It just shows how guilty he is.
He ran. He's like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah, like, keep my name out of this. Like, throw everybody else under the bus. Like, to me, I really don't have any questions on it because the fact is it's so explanatory right here that he's guilty.
I have to say that I think that when it comes to this lawsuit, Mr. Jones has so much in terms of photos, of videos, of like all of this evidence, so to speak. And in a civil lawsuit, you don't necessarily need all this evidence that he has, yet he has so much on the defendants that I don't know how they defend this.
Mm-hmm. And then
I wasn't there. It wasn't me.
This is where you pay people and it goes away because
you pay people to shut up.
You can't defend this. You can't. So
hush money.
Yeah, 67. After being shot in the stomach and hip leg, G was physically incapable of walking. Therefore, the notion that he was shot several blocks away, Sean Hawley, half a block away, CRS, or as he stepped outside the studio is implausible.
So right there, they're talking about the fact that these are the statements that Sean Hawley and CRS gave, is that he was right. Okay.
Yeah, there was two different stories that they gave to law enforcement, which
both of them were implausible. They were impossible.
Yeah. 68. If G could do as much walking as Sean Hawley and CRS claimed, then Mr. Jones would not have been required to physically pick him up off the restroom floor and walk him through the maze. That is CRS for him to receive care from the ambulance, right? So there is a footnote here. I'm just trying to remember, see where 7 was in the footnote in this one. But there is a footnote, and the facts will be crystal clear in discovery. Okay. So then we move down to 69. At
any time when you're tired of reading and want me to take over for a minute, just let me know for me to take over. Okay.
I will.
Go ahead.
69. As the date of this filing, neither the Los Angeles Police Department nor the Los Angeles Fire Department have released any official reports surrounding this shooting. There has been no body camera footage and no 911 call recording. What is even more disturbing is that there has been no sighting of G. The LAPD has only released a vaguely written news release dated September 12, 2022. Number 70, the unfortunate shooting of G, the unexplained disappearance of G, the lack of disclosures by the LAPD and the LAFD, and the incoherent nature of Sean Hawley and Chalice Recording Studios' account of the shooting raises more questions than answers, points to foul play and a massive cover-up. Underlined bold. The defendant silence from the attendees of the CRS shooting stems from understandable fear that the attendees would be sued by Mr. Combs for violating a non-disclosure agreement.
Rochelle.
Yes.
For some reason, I accidentally muted myself. really quickly, I just want to go back to what you were reading about the LAPD because you're in Canada. The LAPD has been notorious for cover-ups, for their like I was speaking about earlier that's the there's certain things out there right now, and I will go over another video on that later, but there are videos out there that speak, or articles and stuff like that, that will speak to Diddy's involvement in the Tupac and the Biggie murders. But when I read through the FBI files, the vault on those murders, the LAPD has a huge problem, especially during these times. They had a huge problem with corruption, basically. And there were LAPD members who were also part of gangs during at least the Tupac and Biggie years. So we have for years and years, and I'm from California. I'm a Cali girl. And from San Diego. So Los Angeles is still my area. But we have had for years problems with the LAPD. So when you look at this and you see that it said that there are more questions than answers, and it points to foul play and stuff like that, and a massive cover up, that's why we had, how many years? Biggie and Tupac died so many years ago. And we just this last year, I think, got an arrest finally. And it's because there has been so much problem with the LAPD.
Well, you also have to remember Tupac was shot in Vegas.
He was. When I include both of them, and I'm sorry, but when I include both of them, it's simply because of the fact that they're so tied together. And I'm a Biggie fan. Like, my kids are more Tupac fans than they are Biggie. They like Biggie's music, but they're more Tupac. And it's like the West Coast, East Coast battle up in my house sometimes, because I'm more of a Biggie fan. But yeah, so when I use them together, it's just because those happen to not take place too far apart from each other, for one, but for two, because of that whole East Coast, West Coast battle thing. Biggie and Tupac were friends before all, and I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to do that. I was just stating that LAPD has had years and years of trouble with the fact that there has been a lot of corruption there.
Okay.
Just in case, because you're in Canada. So just in case you didn't know that there's a huge problem there.
I will bring this to your attention again.
I love when you say, but we know your guys's.
Just because I'm Canadian
Doesn't mean I don't know, because we know what happens there.
I do not live in an igloo. I have hydro. I have all this. I know about the LAPD police. Like, come on, everybody knows about Rodney King. Everybody knows about.
Oh, okay. Then I apologize. And this is a personal conversation you and me have all the time, because I sit there and question you, because I don't know. Over here in the United States, even though I think Justin Trudeau is very hot.
Okay, let's not go down the political trail.
No, it's not political trail. I'm saying we only know, my whole point in that is we only know certain things about Canada here. That's my point, is we don't follow everything that is like Celine Dion.
Thank you, Kendall. Thank you. It's Canada, not Uganda.
So just because oh my goodness, I'm not saying that Canada is Uganda. I'm saying that here in the United States, at least me personally, because I'm not going to speak for every person that lives here, I don't follow everything that happens in Canada. It's just not top news for us. So that's why sometimes I'll sit there and say, I don't know if you know this, to Rochelle, because she's in Canada, but it's only because we don't follow everything in Canada the way maybe they follow us. And would you say that we're like your cousins? And that's not, like, America is America and America first and blah, 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 blah. So we don't, like, I personally, I don't know everything. I know who I don't like Justin or Drake at the moment. But other than that, when That's okay. I'm going off. I'm just saying I don't know what you know.
Crimes Untangled. I'm going to stop you there before you fall down
Thank
and
you.
get battered for this, because you to me are a typical. You have the look of Canada, like that. We try to tell people that this is not true. This is just what what some Americans think, this and that, because some Americans aren't worldly. And you're right by saying America thinks this way, but a majority of the Americans are worldly. So
You're right. You're right. And that's why I said people like me, I can't speak for all Americans. I can't speak for, like, I can't. I'm saying for me, though, I don't follow everything that happens in Canada. So I don't know everything over there. So I'm speaking for me and others who may not follow Canada. I follow Korea.
I tell you this, though. I'll tell you this, is if Canada closed off their lumber to the Americans, if Canada closed off their crude oil to the Americans, if Canada closed off our Great Lakes to the Americans, you would definitely start learning about Canada.
I could promise you that. I guarantee that.
So
I'm just saying that for me personally,
yeah,
I didn't. And so that's why sometimes I sit there and say, in case you didn't know, and you always do know, and you point out the fact that you know more about us than I know about you. And I'm not every American. I'm just some. I'm just me, actually.
You are what we class as a stereotypical American, because you know the stereotypical things that people say about Canada, and that's it.
I don't even know if I know the I don't know about that. I know that I know from American Dad. LOL. Just kidding. No. And I love, I have a daughter that speaks like she's from Canada. She says Rochelle, can you say sorry for me?
Sorry.
Oh, you did that on purpose. Usually you say sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So I love Canada and everything else. I'm just saying every once in a while I get in my own head and I point out to you, I don't know if you know this about America. And so that's what I was saying. But yeah, I know you do.
No offense. It makes me laugh because you are that stereotypical American.
Hey, I know more about Korea than you guys do.
Well, but I never say I know, because the Asian countries don't. I'm not, like I said, I'm not, I'm not just not about them. But I'm very, as a Canadian, Canadians are more worldly knowledge. And I will say that because we learn our history is worldwide, because we are a country, but so is America.
But even in our educational system, you have to realize, and this is us going off the rails for 1 second, then you can go back. But in the educational system here in the States, we go through world history, right? But you guys, like Canada, I feel, at least when I was in my classes in school, you guys are more of a footnote than you are part of the history. Does that make sense?
That's
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying what my educational background was on Canada. Is you guys were more kind of a footnote than you are a major part of it. Now, as an adult, when I go back and I look at the history, it's different, right? Because now I can look at things and be like, oh, wait, they were more a part of this than what I learned in school. So that was just me going, explaining myself on that one as to why I was telling her, in case you don't know, because she's in Canada, but go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
I love you.
That's okay. We're going to go back to P. Diddy.
Yes.
Because I could go down this trail of being a footnote and say, Jesus, you guys, we've kept your backs safe.
No, you have. No, and that's, Rochelle, that's what I'm saying. As an adult, I've learned more than what my educational background in high school taught me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. You guys were a lot more than the footnote that our high school education taught us.
I agree. But then that's the difference here. We from grade 5 till we entered college and university, things like that. So from grade 5 on, we were world history because
Oh, see,
Canada
that's different here.
is built, and so is the United States, built on immigrants. We are the new world. So when things from the old world and people started coming here, we are the new world. There is not one person that has American blood or Canadian blood. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Yes, you're born in America, but your ancestry is world blood. It's not there's not one person in this world that says I'm 100% American, because you're just not. Same as Canada. There's not one person here that can say I'm 100% Canadian. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I think that. Well, like, again, we can go. You know what, Rochelle? You and I can go on that conversation for like ever, comparing our like the way we were taught, and maybe we will one day, because here it was so different. Our education, like I said, and as an adult, I no longer think of you guys as a footnote. I just don't know everything about Canada as you know about the United States. That's all.
No, that's fine. And Kendall says, to be fair, in Two Crimes Untangled, in America, we aren't taught about Canada, even in world history.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's honestly, I agree. Like, I don't come down on Crimes Untangled at all about it. I just laugh sometimes because she is that stereotypical American that we talk about up here. Like, but at the same time, Canada isn't always ice. Canada isn't, we live in igloos, or we don't have hydro, or
I never said that.
No, but that's I've had some Americans say, like, I lived in Alberta, and I actually had Americans say something about cold and stuff like that. So I played along and I said, well, just watch out for the dog sleds.
That's funny. You know what, Rochelle, I'm going to say really quickly before we go ahead and continue, because we have a lot more to read, but I'm going to say really quickly, my background is archaeology, anthropology. My major is anthropology with a focus on archaeology and history as my college years, right? And so we go further. My high school years, we didn't learn about Canada and stuff like that, but in my college years, obviously for my degree and stuff, we did learn, because I had to learn about different tribes of Native, like not only Native Americans, but the others in like Canada and the igloos and like all of that stuff. And so I know that you don't live in an igloo. I've seen your office. I know you don't live in an igloo. I know that you are not a native. Therefore, and actually, I have a question on that, because I said I know you're not a native, but that may mean something different than it does here, because here a Native American is a person who was here before the Europeans came over. So I don't know if in Canada you're considered a native just because you were born. Like, I don't know how that works, but you and me can go down that rabbit hole on another time, because it would be kind of fun to compare the two countries and our learning education.
So natives here are Native Americans.
Oh, okay.
We are, there's Native Americans, and then we break it down to First Nations.
Okay.
So, because what it is, they're Native Americans.
Okay, Kendall, I'm going to ask Rochelle. Rochelle, do you have pet polar bear?
I gave mine away the other day. I rehomed it. No, I'm
really
joking.
You didn't give it to me, although I don't think I can legally own one here.
Okay. No, you can't. But
go on.
And I've never seen a polar bear in real life.
Really?
Never.
We're so far down this rabbit hole.
Even when I've went to the Northwest Territories and Yukon, I never saw a polar bear in real life.
Rochelle, read that.
You guys should do a separate podcast together where you guys talk difference in Canada and American and such. Yeah. So we're in Arizona. We have solar bears. You have Canadian winter bears coming down in Arizona. But okay, I'm going to drop the whole Canadian thing. Let's get back to Diddy.
Let's do
Because
it.
this is a total different show.
Yep. Let's go.
So
where were you?
71.
Are you on 70? 70 what?
71.
Okay, let's go. All right, I'll move it.
A few days prior, on September 12, 2022, shooting inside the Chalice recording studio, Mr. Combs required all attendees for CRS shooting to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Mr. Jones did not sign the agreement. Good for you, Mr. Jones. A copy of the non-disclosure agreement, there's a footnote 8. Unfortunately for the attendees of the writers' camp, they are unaware that the DNAs are non-binding when it comes to reporting criminal activity such as shooting, ST, and the distribution and use of illegal drugs and guns. Oh, so their non-disclosures are not valid in this thing. Mr. Jones was SH'd and assaulted by Mr. Combs. Throughout this time living with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones was the victim of a constant unsolicited and unauthorized groping and touching of
Right? Yeah.
75. These events took place in LA, NYFL, and the United States Virgin Islands. 76. In addition to the unsolicited and unauthorized touching, Mr. Jones was forced by Mr. Combs to work in Mr. Combs' bathroom as Mr. Combs walked around naked and showered in a clear glass enclosure. I just don't know why this guy didn't leave. 77.
Hold on, Rochelle. Think about it, because, like, I hear what you're saying, but think about the power and the money and everything else that Combs has, because I don't know Mr. Jones's at this moment in time. I don't know what his financial stability or where he was getting all of his money from. And I'm not saying he was doing something illegal for it. I'm saying I don't know how much money he had, right? But Mr. Combs is a billionaire. Therefore, money and power has a lot of control over people. And that's why I speak of, when I talk about the female victims, or even Cassie Ventura, who is named as a victim in this newest lawsuit, or the newest charges against Diddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's more about the, like, Diddy had videos, he had stuff, and it not always is it I'm not giving you permission to take this video of me, but you're taking this video of me that I didn't know. You don't know what this guy has on you. There is a power play here.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So that's why I'm saying, when you say, why didn't this guy leave? I think, well, maybe he felt like he couldn't at the time.
Okay. I know it's true. It's true. As a heterosexual Christian man, Mr. Jones was uncomfortable with Mr. Combs' advances and expressed his discomfort to Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Christina KK.
Corum, yeah.
KK responded to Mr. Jones' complaints with Sean will be Sean.
What does that mean?
Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. KK also attempted to downplay Mr. Combs' groping of Mr. Jones. I'm not saying the word because it will get you banned. And genitals as friendly horseplay, setting that those acts were Mr. Combs' way of showing that he likes you. Are you kidding me?
So again, I say, look at this. I don't know if at this time he felt like he could just up and leave.
Yeah, there's a power play definitely going on here. Despite these assurances, on several occasions when Mr. Combs began to undress and walk around in his house naked, KK would say, "Okay, I am leaving now," and she would disappear. Wow. And as an adult who is rich and famous, how hard is it to set up a S party that doesn't have illegal shit going on? Why does it have to be? Yep.
Yeah. Right. So this is the man who's a billionaire, who is using these parties and these quote unquote freak offs and everything else as a, you're not going to say what's really going on, so you're going to use different words, but this is all control. This is all just manipulation. This is just like, this is very disturbing. And that's why I said this is going to be graphic. It's disturbing. And I believe Mr. Jones. Absolutely. I believe him. He has the pictures. He has, like, and even if he didn't have the pictures, it's, wait. There are very few Native Americans. I'm Native American. I am a registered Native American because here in the United States, I don't get money. I'm not part of one of those tribes. But I'm a registered Native American. There are a lot more Native Americans than you would think that there are, but because of, and Canada did this also way back in the day, to where Native Americans were forced into educational systems and schools that would teach them to not be quote unquote savages, Native Americans, or any other words you want to use. There are a lot of Native Americans still. We just, I am very pale. I am so, you can see my picture. I'm very pale, but I am a registered Native American. So there are more than you would think that there are. We just aren't all 100% Native American anymore. Not to say that there aren't 100% Native Americans anymore. I'm saying I'm not. I'm Native American, I'm Mexican, and I'm Irish. So I'm a very mixed group, but I have enough Native American blood in me to be a registered Native American. So we're still here. We're just watered down, so to speak.
And Kendall has a good point here.
Yes.
No, the next one.
Oh, is that one after that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it frustrate either of you ladies that a huge media like CNN and Fox can use the terms that would get this channel banned for using? Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
YouTube is very, it allows people to have a voice and say things that, you can't say, that the mainstream media isn't willing to say. But at the same time, yes, the restrictions on how we have to edit ourselves is not great.
So
and I do think so.
So I'm learning a lot from Rochelle because I'm new on this platform. I'm new, and so I'm learning a lot from Rochelle. But I find it interesting that I can play a clip, or I can play Law and Crime or CNN. I can play their videos and comment on them, but I myself cannot use the same words that they will use. And I'm having to learn from Rochelle, like I said, on what I need to shut up on. So it's very frustrating, Rochelle. It is. It's like, it's hard to censor myself in that way when it's so obvious certain crimes that are being committed. And this isn't necessarily entertainment all the time. This is more informational. And even in informational videos, you can't say those words.
Okay, so I am gonna keep going on and reading because I just realized the time is 6:30 and I have a live that I also have to. So I don't want to leave this not done. So we are at 82. Mr. Jones believes the KK aided and abetted Mr. Combs' SA of him and was working with Mr. Combs to groom him into accepting a homosexual relationship. 83. Through these sexual deviant acts, one would say Mr. Combs has a pattern of practice of engaging in such infurious activity. This ongoing conduct shows that Mr. Combs cannot be rehabilitated. I would 100% agree.
Thank you.
Mr. Combs attempted to groom Mr. Jones into engaging in gay sex. 84. Mr. Combs was aware of Mr. Jones, looked up to and idolized music producers Stephen Aaron, Jordan, Stevie J. Stevie J is an American DJ, recorded producer, and television personality. Stevie J was part of the Bad Boy Records production team, the Hitmen. In 1997, Stevie J won a Grammy Award for his work on Puff Daddy's debut album. Throughout the late 90s, Stevie J produced for several artists, including Mariah Carey, Tavion Campbell, The Notorious B.I.G., 112,
Jodeci.
Jodeci, Faith Evans, Jay-Z, and Eve. Stevie J was one of the producers on the Love album. Mr. Combs used access to Stevie J and his knowledge of Mr. Jones' admiration of Stevie J to groom and entice Mr. Jones to engage. Oh, this is just sad.
No, wait till you hear what happened.
Mr. Combs went so far as to share a video of who he claimed was Stevie J. There's a footnote 9. The writer is in possession of the video and will provide a copy to the court. Wow. I'm not saying that because that will get you banned. A Caucasian male without a condom. This was done to ease Mr. Jones' anxiety concerning homosexuality. According to Mr. Combs, this is normal practice in the music industry. Look, even Stevie J, footnote 10. Stevie J denies that he is the person in the video. A male P-Star claimed that he was the blackmail in the video. Mr. Jones stands by his position that Mr. Combs provided him with the video and identified the individual in the video as Stevie J. And it says, is doing it. Mr. Combs informed Mr. Jones that he had engaged in sexual intercourse with rapper redacted R&B singer, which is a footnote of 12. So I'm just going down to see who 12 is. He performed at the Super Bowl and had a successful Vegas residency. So that's easy to find out. Who
yeah, I'm not going to say who it is, but I know who that is. Go on.
Mr. Combs promised to make sure that Mr. Jones wins Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he engaged in, oh my God.
Really quickly, that goes back to what I was saying about that power. He was using his own power to say, hey, I can guarantee you this. Just shut your mouth.
Oh, Godwin. Yeah, that saw Combs is into men, AAK swing daddy.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving 2022, Mr. Jones is SA'd by young Miami cousin. Oh, God.
That one was disturbing also.
Yeah, on Thanksgiving Day 2022, Mr. Jones was in Mr. Combs' house located in Miami, Florida. Young Miami and her female cousins were also present. Mr.
Young
Combs
Miami, just really quickly, Young Miami has not been named in any of this. It was her she's not named in this. So
okay, so well, they name her right here.
Well, no, I mean as a she's not named in this as being a participant or a I can't think of the word right now, so you can go on. She's not named in it like as a defendant, so to speak.
Yeah, but her name's on blast, that's for sure.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Combs was intoxicated and offered white snow to Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones rejected him and proceeded to walk to the restroom. While using the restroom, young Miami's cousin burst into the bathroom and began groping Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones believes that Mr. Combs sent her in there to SA Mr. Jones. As she entered the bathroom, she dropped to her knees and began performing OS on Mr. Jones' exposed pee. Mr. Jones pushed her away and exited the bathroom. Young Miami's cousin did not accept Mr. Jones' rejection as she proceeded to follow Mr. Jones out of the bathroom. She started undressing and attempting to straddle him and have sex with him in the presence of Mr. Combs and his staff. Jesus Christ. Once again, Mr. Jones pushed her off. The following are images from a video of young Miami, her cousin, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Combs.
Yeah.
So then we're going to go down to 101. Throughout this time, Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones was transported from California to New York, Florida, and United States Virgin Islands. During this time, Mr. Jones was forced to solicit SWs and perform sex acts to the pleasure of Mr. Combs. On or about February 4th, 2023, Mr. Combs forced Mr. Jones to bring street workers and S workers back to his home in Miami, Florida. On and about February 2nd, 2023, incident, Mr. Jones believes Mr. Combs drugged him. Mr. Jones recalls waking up naked, dizzy, and confused. He was in bed with 2 S workers and Mr. Combs. He also recalls aimlessly wandering around the house with no clothes on. On another occasion in Miami, Florida, on Thanksgiving night of 2022, Mr. Combs asked Mr. Jones and DeForest Taylor to enter the studio bathroom. He asked them for a $100 bill because he wanted them to do snow with him. Mr. Jones was scared, but luckily he didn't have a $100 bill, so Mr. Combs waited a little later to do white snow with Young Miami. Later that evening, he required Mr. Jones to solicit S workers from Booby Trap on the... Oh, there's an address. Sorry.
Okay. We'll just go down.
As part of Mr. Jones' S worker recruitment tools, Mr. Combs provided Mr. Jones with an exclusive bad boy baseball cap and required him to wear it to Booby Trap on the river as a signal to any S worker he approached that Mr. Combs was in town and had sent Mr. Jones to recruit them.
Wow.
That's insane. Mr. Jones had no desire to visit Booby Trap on the river. Mr. Jones had no desire to solicit S workers from Booby Trap on the river. Mr. Combs used his power and influence to intimidate and force Mr. Jones into soliciting S workers from Booby Trap on the river. As detailed below, Mr. Combs used many tactics to maintain dominance and control of Mr. Jones. Apparently, these workers were accustomed to servicing Mr. Combs and would know that he is in town by the sight of the bad boy's baseball cap. The following are Instagram photo profiles of 2 of the S workers that Mr. Combs required Mr. Jones to solicit and have sex with at his home in Miami, Florida.
Jesus.
Oh, Mr. Jones had no desire to solicit and or have sex with the individuals in previous paragraph. Mr. Combs used his power and influence to intimidate and force Mr. Jones into soliciting and sleeping with these women. The following is a phone number of another S worker that Mr. Combs required Mr. Jones to solicit and perform S acts with in his home in Miami, Florida. Mr. Jones had no desire to solicit and or have sex with the individuals in previous paragraph. Mr. Combs used his power and influence to intimidate and force Mr. Jones into soliciting and sleeping with individuals above. They have to say that a lot. Mr. Combs used many tactics to maintain dominion and control of Mr. Jones. He promised him a Grammy for producer of the year for the Love album, which I don't understand how he could guarantee that.
I don't either.
That would mean he's got money and he's got pull with the Grammys.
Exactly.
He offered him $250,000 to purchase all the instruments he wanted. He promised him ownership of his 20,000 property. Or is that million? That might be million. 20 million.
Don't ask me.
One Start Island in Miami, Florida. He promised access to record label executives like defendants Lucian Charles, Greenwich, and Ethiopia. Mr. Combs would often switch up his approach. He would go from promising Mr. Jones the world to threatening Mr. Jones with physical harm. Mr. Combs threatened to eat Mr. Jones's face and informed Mr. Jones that he is willing to unalive his mother, Janice Combs, if he must, in order to get what he wants. So he wouldn't think twice to harm Mr. Jones.
Wow.
Okay, so what page? We're on 23. Whew. Okay. I'm gonna let you read for a minute because this is
go for
very triggering to me. So I'm
No,
just I'm
yeah,
gonna let
sit
you
back.
read, and I'm going to just walk away for a second.
Go for it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Combs and Jay Combs solicits drugs and engages in illicit S acts with minors and S workers. On or about July 2nd, 2023, in California, Mr. Combs had a listening party at his home. Present at this party was R&B artist, and that's been redacted, Jay Combs, S workers, and some underage girls. The event began at 7 p.m. Mr. Combs requested female S workers and required Mr. Jones to solicit them. An hour later, several S workers appeared. In addition to S workers, there were at least 5 women in the crowd that were under the age of 16. I had literally, when I was reading Diddy's indictment and comparing him to R. Kelly, I said that I didn't know of any underage people for Mr. Combs, but now a lot has come out. So I'll go on. Mr. Combs forced all the women to drink laced De Leon liquor. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs laced the liquor with ecstasy. Mr. Combs did not check the identification of any of these underage girls. The presence of these underage women made Mr. Jones very uncomfortable. He attempted to leave, and Mr. Combs forced him to stay. Mr. Combs went so far as to take Mr. Jones's car keys to prevent him from leaving. After being forced to drink laced De Leon shots, Mr. Jones began feeling lightheaded and recalls passing out and waking up at 4 a.m. the following morning naked with a S worker sleeping next to him. Screenshots of a video from that night is embedded below, and if it is, I'm going to quickly go over it. Oh, well, it's not explicit, so wow. Oh, wow. Mr. Jones believes that Mr. Combs was grooming him to pass him off to his friends. This fear became reality when Mr. Combs introduced Mr. Jones to Cuba Gooding Jr. while they were on Mr. Combs' yacht. I don't want to believe that, but I don't have a choice. During the introduction, Mr. Combs suggested that Cuba get to know Mr. Jones better. He then left them alone in a makeshift studio on the yacht. Oh, man. As evidenced by a video of which screenshots were embedded below, Cuba Gooding Jr. began touching, groping, and fondling Mr. Jones' legs, his upper inner thighs, near his groin, the small of his back, near his buttocks, and his shoulders. Mr. Jones was extremely uncomfortable and proceeded to lean away from Mr. Gooding Jr. He rejected his advances, and Mr. Gooding Jr. did not stop until Mr. Jones forcibly pushed him away. The following is a screenshot of the encounter with Cuba Gooding Jr. And okay. Throughout his time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones was under an implied work-for-hire agreement. He was not compensated for his time living with Mr. Combs or for the songs he produced. Mr. Jones so sorry, that last one really bothers me, but Mr. Jones was recruited by Frankie Santella to work on the Love album. Mr. Jones informed Mr. Santella he required the following to work on the Love album. Is that 20,000? Yeah, 20,000 per song, 4 royalty points, credit as producer and credited with each instrument Mr. Jones played, and Mr. Jones must retain his publishing rights. After meeting with Frankie Santella, they orally agreed to the terms detailed above. Mr. Jones met with defendant Combs, who further reiterated and guaranteed that the terms detailed above was accepted. As a result, Mr. Jones began work on the album. As evidence, he was listed as as a producer for the following songs on the Love album's final release: Deliver Me, Stay Part 1, Reachin', What's Love, Stay a While, Moments, Needed, Somebody, Homecoming, and Tough Love. I don't know any of those songs. Mr. Combs and defendants LR, MR, UMG all benefited from Mr. Jones' work product. They failed to compensate Mr. Jones for his work. As a footnote, Mr. Gooding Jr. has a storied history of sexually assaulting and forcibly touching individuals against their will. Oh my goodness. As a result, Mr. Combs and defendants LR, MR, UMG were all unjustly enriched at the expense of Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones attempted to work with Mr. Combs to secure his publishing and royalty rights for the work he completed on the Love album. Mr. Combs only offered Mr. Jones $29,000 for 13 months, thousands of hours of work, and 9 songs that made it to the Love album. Ironically, Mr. Jones was willing to take $50,000, his publishing and royalties. Mr. Combs' self-serving greed would not allow him to pay Mr. Jones an additional $21,000. Mr. Combs' deceptive business practices became so bad that Mr. Jones was left with no choice other than to make a public plea on social media for Mr. Combs to pay him for his work. After publicly requesting that Mr. Combs do the right thing and pay him fairly, Mr. Jones received an onslaught of threatening messages from Stevie J and Love Records and A&R DeForest Taylor. Wow. Footnotes: this writer has retained other creatives, artists, and writers who have experienced the same treatment from Mr. Combs and will file suit in the coming weeks. As the A&R of Love Records, DeForest Taylor did not require Mr. Jones or any of the other creatives, musicians, or artists to sign an NDA, which is the non-disclosure agreement. According to Mr. Jones, Mr. Combs is very forceful and demanding. Mr. Combs does not take no for an answer and would often threaten to inflict bodily harm on Mr. Jones if Mr. Jones did not comply with his demands. As detailed above, Mr. Combs threatened to eat Mr. Jones's face. On another occasion, while standing in Mr. Combs' bedroom, Mr. Jones was forced to watch as Mr. Combs displayed his guns and bragged about getting away with shooting people. Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub in New York City with rapper Shine. And that one's a whole nother video. He shared that artist and Mr. Combs' girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, and carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. I remember when all of that went down, and I believe that J-Lo was not charged in that, but this is seriously disturbing because I love her music too. The shooting in Chalice recording studios confirmed Mr. Combs' statements. These statements reinforced Mr. Jones's fear of Mr. Combs and strengthened Mr. Combs' dominion over and control over Mr. Jones. I'm so frustrated. Sorry. Mr. Jones was terrified of Mr. Combs. He felt like he could not tell him no. Mr. Combs consistently made it clear that he has immense power in the music industry and with law enforcement. Mr. Combs made it clear that his head of security, Mr. Muhammad, had the power to make people and problems disappear. Wow. Okay, well, okay. Mr. Combs instructs his staff to always contact Mr. Muhammad if they are ever pulled over by the police in Miami or California. Upon information and belief, Mr. Muhammad spoke with the LAPD. After G was shot at CRS, the LAPD was in CRS and witnessed the blood in the restroom, and they went with the bogus claim that the shooting of G occurred outside of the studio. This was all thanks to Mr. Muhammad's connections with law enforcement. Mr. Jones had no reason to believe Mr. Combs, as he had seen firsthand, had no reason to disbelieve. I'm sorry, that's why. I had to go back because I was like, wait, I think I read that wrong. But Mr. Jones had no reason to disbelieve Mr. Combs, as he had seen firsthand through the shooting of G and the subsequent violence of the LAPD, or silence. I'm automatically now in like putting my own words in there. So sorry. Subsequent silence of the LAPD and the media that Mr. Combs indeed had the power to harm him. The LAPD spent hours in CRS after the shooting of G, yet there were no arrests. Mr. Jones witnessed the LAPD in the restroom pictured above, that yet no arrests were made at the scene. The morning after the shooting, Mr. Jones and several others arrived at CRS, and G's blood was still on the floor of the restroom, and Mr. Combs was hired a cleaning crew to clean it up. I'm actually going to have my son read for a second because my head is.
I'm back. I'm back, hon.
Oh, are you? I was going to have to make my son read because I'm like, I can't. Like, I'm missing words because my head hurts so badly. So do you want to take over from 162?
162 is your number. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I am back.
Okay. I was telling my son, I was trying to pull him over. I'm like, can you please read for a second? Because my head is starting to pound so badly.
Yep. No, I will get this going here.
Okay.
So Mr. Jones recalls seeing defendant Grange visiting Mr. Combs' home in Miami, Florida and Los Angeles, California. According to Mr. Jones, whenever defendant Grange visited Mr. Combs at his homes, it would be in the evening, and he and Mr. Combs would disappear for hours in Mr. Combs' bedroom. Defendant Grange, I believe that's how it's pronounced, sponsored and attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' homes in Los Angeles, California. These parties were sponsored by defendants MRLR and UMG. As evidence above, these parties had S workers and underage girls present. During these parties, defendant Grange knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was drugging the attendees through local bottles of De Leon tequila and Ciroc vodka. I'm not a drinker, guys, so I don't know.
That's okay. I am.
It is not secret that Mr. Combs has specific bottles of alcohol designated for females and other bottles designated for his staff, his artists, and himself. This fact was detailed by former artist and bodyguard of Mr. Combs. As a sponsor of these events, defendant Grange had a duty and obligation to ensure that the S workers and underage girls were not present and that Mr. Combs was not spiking the alcohol with the date grape drugs.
However, Rochelle, if right there it says that there was alcohol designated for females and other bottles designated for like the staff and his artists and stuff like that, wouldn't that make you think that maybe they were being laced with something? Why is it only why are bottles being separated for the females?
Oh no, absolutely. I agree. Like this is a lot. Like I truly did have to step away. I didn't realize what was being scripted in this and how triggering it is for me.
I'm so sorry.
So I'm going to keep reading as much as I can, and that way I can just try to regroup before I do my live, because I'm shaking. Like I'm literally
so sorry, Rochelle. I can only see out of my right or my left eye. That's why I was going to make my son read for me.
Yeah, no, I just didn't realize how descriptive this was going to be. And
some of this is bothering me too from my past, but
yeah, oh,
it's hard.
it's very, yeah. I'm holding myself tight, and so I'll get through this.
I appreciate you so much.
On number 68 on YouTube channel, The Art of Dialogue, former bodyguard Gene Deal exposed Mr. Combs' pill mixing method. You're gonna have to look up that YouTube channel and find that video. Used to spike cranberry juice and orange juice. According to Mr. Deal, Mr. Combs would place the drug and other date grape drugs in the juices. On YouTube, The Art of Dialogue, former artist Mark Curie exposed Mr. Combs spiking bottles of most champagne. In the VIP sections of nightclubs, Mr. Combs would have a set of most champagne or mock champagne or Moet champagne bottles for his artists and a set of women. This writer has spoken with several former employees of Mr. Combs who witnessed defendant Coram instruct her staff to lace the champagne bottles and the other liquor bottles with drug and other illicit drugs. Mr. Jones recalls seeing defendant, I'm not even going to say her name, visiting Mr. Combs' home in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California. According to Mr. Jones, whenever defendant H visited Mr. Combs at his home, it would be in the evening, and she and Mr. Combs would disappear for hours in the bathroom. According to Mr. Jones, defendant H visited Mr. Combs at defendant CRS during Mr. Combs' writing camp. Defendant H sponsored and attended several Love album listening parties at Mr. Combs' home in Los Angeles, California. These parties were sponsored by defendants MR, LR, and UMG. As evidence above, these parties had S workers and underage girls present. During these parties, defendant H knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was drugging the attendees through lace bottles. I think I already read that part. And with yes, so we're going to move on to page 33. 177. According to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed Mr. Combs display and distribute.
Hey, Rochelle,
yes.
Really quickly, isn't that Epstein and Maxwell in that picture?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Huh. Okay, just double check because I was like, wait a minute. I was talking about them earlier. I hadn't gone this far yet. So go on.
Yeah. So Mr. Combs displayed distribute firearms from his bedroom closet in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, to questionable individuals dressed in all black. According to Mr. Jones, during this 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed defendant Coram openly order her assistants to keep Mr. Combs high of gummies and pills. Defendant Coram required all employees, from the butler to chef to housekeepers, to walk around with a pouch of fanny pack filled with the white snow, GHB, marijuana gummies, and 2C. I have no idea what 2C is, but it's obviously not something that is right. It is important to defendant Coram to have Mr. Combs' drugs of choice immediately ready when he asks for it. The defendant Coram ordered S workers and P workers for Mr. Combs. The defendant Coram ordered and distributed white snow, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms for Mr. Combs and his celebrity guests who were present on his rented yacht and in his home in LA, NYC, and Miami. On multiple occasions, defendant Coram forced Mr. Jones to carry Mr. Combs' package, his drug pouch, against his will. As the chief of staff, defendant Coram was instrumental in organizing and executing the RICO enterprise. Defendant Coram had the following individuals execute the following tasks for the RICO enterprise. Steve J. recruits S workers and attends and participates in freak-offs.
Wow.
Justin Combs solicits P workers, underage girls, and S workers would engage in freak offs.
Rochelle, right there is why I think, like I had said, that I don't think that I don't think that any of his kids are going to be pulled into these kind of like they're going to be accused of these kind of charges. But now when we're reading this, I'm now second guessing what I had thought, because apparently he did involve his kids in it.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Brandon Paul works as Mr. Combs' mule. He acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' D's and G's. Okay. Frankie Santella works alongside Brandon while Brandon acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' stuff. Frankie carries the money and pays for the stuff. That's those two. Mr. Boyne hires S workers, attends, and participates in freak-offs. Mr. Combs funded and used his affiliation with local gang and gang leaders who would frequent his homes in LA and in Miami to secure the drugs and the firearms he obtained and distributed out of his homes in LA. Defendant executed their RICO enterprise with threats of violence, threatening to eat plaintiffs' faces, displaying. Oh, this is disturbing.
Yeah.
Displaying and distributing firearms in plaintiffs' presence, bragging about having law enforcement under control, bragging about unaliving people, and bragging about bribing witnesses and jurors in criminal cases concerning the 1999 NYC nightclub shooting with Shine. Defendants executed their RICO enterprise with threats of isolation from the music and entertainment industry, parroting powerful music industry executives such as defendants Lucien Charles Guinage, Ethiopia H, at his parties filled with sex workers, S workers, minors, and illegal drugs such as E, white snow, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. Defendant executed their RICO enterprise with threats of non-payment for work completed, fake promises for cash payments, producer of the year Grammy Awards, and guaranteed access to future projects, and a $20 million home on Star Island in Miami. While living and traveling with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones discovered that Mr. Combs has hidden cameras in every room of his homes. Mr. Jones believes that Mr. Combs has recordings of defendant Lucien Charles Grainage, Ethiopia H, as well as other celebrities, music label executives, politicians, and athletes. Upon information and belief, these individuals were recorded without their knowledge and consent, and as in this case with the homosexual S tapes by Stevie J that Mr. Combs provided to Mr. Jones. Mr. Combs processes compromising footage on every person that has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties. Upon information and belief due to the treasure trove of evidence he has in his possession, Mr. Combs believes that he is above the law and untouchable. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs employs Jose Cruz as his IT director. This writer has spoken to several former employees of Mr. Combs who has confirmed that Jose Cruz is the gatekeeper to all of Mr. Combs' recordings. Upon information and belief, Jose Cruz initially hid behind the camera and from social media and the internet due to all the incriminating acts he was required to record for Mr. Combs. On or before March 2nd, 2024, Mr. Jones was informed by a close friend from his church that Mr. Combs engineers Matt Testa provided an individual phone number to Los Angeles-based private investigator Russell L. Greeny. There's a lot. This is a lot.
There's so much, Rochelle. I'm so sorry for doing this to you, but I so appreciate you. I always appreciate you.
Upon information and belief, Mr. Green attempted to bribe this anonymous individual. I am on, 196. or any
Sorry.
evidence that his individual can produce to paint Mr. Jones in a bad light. The individual is now terrified for their safety and the safety of their family. Of course they are. This is a clear example of some of the tactics that are implemented by Mr. Combs and the member of the Combs RICO enterprise. And we're going to page 39 now. The first cause of action, conduct and participation in a RICO enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, violations of racketeering influence, and corrupt organization act.
That whole RICO, like them citing that RICO, all the RICO on there, it makes me think that he might be a victim in the newest charges against Diddy.
I would say he is. Mr. Jones incorporates by referencing all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as it's set forth fully hereon. As represent superior defendant Lucien Charles Gainage, Ethiopia H, Combs, Global Motown, all the defendants in this are 100% liable for the actions of Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Christina Corn, as they were acting in their capacity as a respondent superior collectives. Employees when they committed the acts detailed below. The respondent superior collective failed to adequately monitor, warn, or supervise the actions of Sean Combs, Justin Combs, and Katrina. Defendants are individuals and or entities within the meaning of people as defined in 18 U.S.C. because each is capable of holding and does hold a legal and beneficial interest in property. The association is composed by Lucien Charles Gainage, all the same people. No sense of reading them all over again. Section 1962A makes it unlawful for any person who has received any income derived directly or indirectly from a pattern of racketeering activity or through a collective of an unlawful debt in which such person was participated as a principal within the meaning of Section 2, Title 18, United States Code, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Unlawful for any person employed by an associate with any enterprise engaged in or the activities of which affect interstate or foreign commerce to conduct or participate directly or indirectly.
So,
yes.
I'm going to bother you only for 1 second because, again, I can only see out of my left eye. What number are you on?
I'm just finishing 203.
Okay, perfect. All right. Just want to double check. Sorry.
I'm going to 204 right now.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm
This
there.
is all a lot of case law here, people. So anything that's case law, I'm just going to state what it says, and then I'm jumping the case law because I'm not going to ramble case laws off.
Yeah.
Section 1962 makes it lawful for any person to conspire to violate sections, among other provisions. Defendants are associated with each other as an enterprise within the meaning of enterprise as defined in case law. 206. Defendants have unlawfully increased their profits by luring and deceiving procedure, musician, writer, creator, artists such as plaintiff to transport drugs. Don't need to read all those off. We know what they are. Transport firearms, solicit minors, exotic dancers, workers, and to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation. 207, the RICO enterprise. So he has a business called RICO.
That would, that surprises me because when I read that, I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute, because I thought that when they said RICO, it was referencing the charge, but it's not.
No,
yeah,
it's not. He has a business called RICO.
Yeah.
Which all
doesn't that fit him?
Yeah, that's a mock to the authorities right there.
Right.
Which all defendants have engaged in, and the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce is compromised of an association, in fact, of persons, including each defendant and other unnamed co-conspirators. This association, in fact, was structured by various contracts and constructual relationships between the defendants by which defendants assume different roles in agreeing to carry out mail and wire fraud scheme to acquire drugs, firearms, P workers, minors, S workers, and labor of producers, musicians, writers, creators, blah, blah, blah. Plaintiff to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation. So they say this over and over. This is a lot of rewriting. 208, the members of RICO Enterprise also share a common purpose to enrich themselves financially and sexually at the expense of producers, musicians, blah, blah, blah. Defendant's revenues through fraudulent means. As set forth hereon, the defendant benefited financially from their schemes to defraud plaintiff by intimidating plaintiff with threats of violence. And then we're going to go to threats of isolation from the music entertainment industry, parroting powerful musical industries executives such as defendants, and all the same defendants again, all the same drugs again, all the same money again. There's they really do rewrite this 100 million times.
And so the first time I did this, I sat there because it was the first time I was reading off an indictment. I sat there and read it out every single time. And I read out his names. I'm like, P. Diddy, whatever, P. Diddy, blah, 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 like that. Rochelle, if you need a break for a second, my daughter's going to read for me. And she's sitting right here to take over for a second if you need a break just to catch your breath.
Yeah, well, and like I said, it's 7:00 here. So we need, I'm on page 40. So I'm going on to page 41.
Right.
Just so your daughter knows.
So that's what I'm saying. Whatever you need, my daughter can read for me if need be. So you can take a breath and so you can take a break and catch your breath.
Okay, yeah, I'll let her do that. Go ahead.
So you're going to start on 209 when she's ready. Are you at 209 already?
Yes.
Okay, so Emily, right there.
Okay. The members of RICO Enterprise RICO?
Yeah.
Okay. The members of RICO Enterprise all share a common purpose to enrich themselves financially and sexually at the expenses of producers, musicians, writers, creators, and artists by maximizing defense revenues through fraudulent means. As set forth herein, defendants benefited financially from their scheme to defraud plaintiff, including by making false representations that claim that loyalty and obedience to Mr. Combs will result in a cash payments. Sorry, guys. Cash payments.
$250,000.
$250,000. Grammy Awards, access to future projects, access to famous celebrities, access to famous athletes, a $20 million home on Star Island in Miami, promises that plaintiffs can increase his chances of securing cash payments. $250,000. Grammy Awards, access to future projects, access to famous celebrities, access to famous athletes. Didn't I already read that?
It often repeats itself, as Rochelle would say, but really quickly, this is my pre-med student, but at the same time, I just woke her up to do this for me. So she's kind of like still half asleep. Go on.
A $20 million home on Star Island in Miami by soliciting sex workers, by soliciting prostitutes, by engaging in
on some of those words.
by engaging in.
I'm gonna cut in here. I know, honey, you don't know the rules of YouTube.
That's what I was trying to tell her.
Okay, let me just go back to this. I'll carry on because I don't want your mom to get debanned from YouTube.
Well, I can explain to her real quick. You have to use SW. You can't say certain words. You have to use like SW or street workers, those kind of things. You can't use explicit words. Okay.
And actually, right now you could skip quite a bit ahead. I'm reading ahead of you.
Because it all repeats itself, right?
It all repeats itself. You could actually go to page 47.
Oh, perfect. All right. So blah, 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 because it all repeats itself. So
Yeah.
when you skip to page 47 and
And
you
now-
can go ahead and start at number 234. And remember, when you're reading it, you have to, when it comes to certain words, you have to say like SW or SA instead of the actual words. All right, go ahead.
All right. Defendants committed multiple acts of mail fraud in violation of 18 USC and 1341 in furtherance of enterprise. 234. Defendants involuntarily and intentionally devised and participated in a scheme to defraud plaintiffs out of money in reliance on the mail. Defendants committed these acts with the intent to defraud Plaintiff Jones and the artists, creatives, musicians, and producers. 235. Defendants used the mail for the purpose of executing the fraudulent scheme herein. 236. I can't speak. Specifically, the defendants agreed to each of the acts of mail fraud described throughout this complaint. In addition, defendants agreed to rely on the mail to secure wire frauds, cash payments from purchase and illegal firearms, and can I say that word?
How do you want her to say that word?
Hold on.
Adult happy time.
There you go,
Defendants
adult happy time.
required others to sell and distribute. And further, 237, in furtherance of, and for the purpose of executing the above described fraudulent and illegal course of conduct to scheme and defraud defendants either individually or in combinations with themselves, used and caused to be used the U.S. mail by both placing and causing to be placed cash, letters, marketing materials, advertisements, agreements, and other matters in depositories. And by removing or causing to be removed to letters, and other mailable matters from depositories, in violation of mail fraud statute 18 USC.
You don't have to read that part.
Okay.
So go on.
I'm so tired. 238. Defendants could not have furthered their fraud without the use of mail. For example, defendants sought to acquire wire transfers, cash payments, and to utilize their talents and labor to produce music and other tangible goods and services without compensation. Defendants also required the mail to distribute misleading advertisements to various states, including New York. I don't know why. For those reasons, the use of mail conduct fraudulent activity was necessary and inevitable. Do I have to keep them there?
You have to read the numbers.
Defendants. Go. You can.
Go ahead, Rochelle. Let's go.
I would go down to your next bold statement, because again, you're just going to be repeating everything again.
So we're going to go. Did you look ahead? Do you know what number you want me to move to? Because what number should I move to? Do you think is the best? Because I don't want to repeat again and again and again, because we know that this guy's a monster. So
you're going to go down to page 49.
thank you. So,
And it's your second cause action, SA. Please remember to say SASH.
So go ahead and start with number 247, but you don't have to read the numbers. Just go ahead and read it.
Do you want me to read this, since there is going to be a lot of language that has to be edited?
Go ahead and do this one, Rochelle, and then she can take over when you're done with that.
Okay, so Mr. Jones incorporates by referencing all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as if set forth fully hereon in. As described above, Mr. Combs frightened and placed plaintiff in apprehension of harm when he physically and essayed him from October 22nd to October 22 to October 23, Mr. Combs' home in Miami, New York, United States Virgin Island, and Los Angeles. Mr. Combs forcibly touched and attempted and or threatened to touch plaintiff intimately. And people were just taking out some of this because it is bad.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Combs violently gripped and palmed Mr. Jones's areas. Mr. Combs forced Mr. Jones to work in Mr. Combs' bathroom. And we've already heard this while he was walking around naked. So there's a lot of double talking here.
Yeah, it's a bunch of repeating. So just tell me where you're moving on to, and I'll skip to that so that she can keep up.
So number 25 or 251, as a result, Mr. Combs' conduct plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer from physical injuries, severe emotions. We know that from above. That was all stated in the first 12 pages. 252, the conduct Mr. Combs described above was willfully wanton and malicious. We know that from above. 253, third cause of action, California's bystander infliction of emotional distress. So honestly, guys, this is all self-explanatory, that this is all about how he was emotionally, how he is emotionally about everything that happened.
It's
And
basically
then,
about how Mr. Combs used his power and his money to control this guy to do what he wanted him to do in order to facilitate his own gratification.
yeah. And again, here, 261, it's fourth cause of action is against SA, against Jane Doe 1. And that's going to be the cousin of Young Miami. So this is just going to describe again what she did when she followed him into the bathroom, what she did when he revoked.
So on that one, Rochelle, do you think that was, when it comes to Young Miami's cousin, do you think that was something that Combs was like not ordering, but kind of like pushing her to do?
Well, it stated that earlier, yes.
Right, it did, right? I'm double checking because it's just this is so long. This one is so long.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could have you could have cut a lot of this out because it is so very competitive or repetitive.
Yeah.
So then we're at 266, guys, where it's the fifth cause of action. And again, this is against this is Jane Doe 1, Young Miami's cousin, and this is just going to keep explaining what she did to Mr. Jones. So
in the bathroom, and this is going to just reiterate what she did with Mr. Jones in the bathroom when she followed him and was forcing herself on him. Although I think it was at like Mr. Combs's direction.
Oh, absolutely. It stated
that's what this is reiterating, basically.
Okay, so the sixth cause of action on 271 is by Cuba Gooding Jr. against Mr. Combs. So Mr. Jones incorporates by referencing all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as it is set forth. So this is, again, he has already stated in this that Cuban Gooding Jr. was allegedly involved with the
and touching and all of that. This is, I'm just really quickly, because I know we want to get through this, but it's just, when it comes to Cuba Gooding Jr., it's really hard for me because I thought of him as being so wholesome that it's really hard. And I'm sure that's got to be hard for other people to read. Like when it comes to Combs, I've always thought I've never had a high opinion of him. But when it comes to Cuba Gooding Jr., this actually kind of hurts to read. It's disturbing. It's very disturbing. It makes me have to question a lot of my thoughts.
Yeah, so this is just laying out all the things that Mr. Jones has said about Mr. Jr.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go to 276. It's the seventh cause of action, which is trafficking of victims. This is the Protection Act so this is going against Christina, Mr. Combs, and Justin Combs because they were all involved in the trafficking of S workers and P workers. So, and that was already alliterated earlier on in this thing. So what they're doing now is breaking down everything that we've already read. Then we're going to go to 292, which is the 8th cause of action. This is inadequate neglect of security. So this is going to be bringing in all those record companies. And at the times here mentioned, the defendants LR, MR, UMG, SRS, and Sean Combs, acting in the course and scope of their agency's employment and representation of each other. And go ahead.
Oh no, it was nothing.
Oh, okay. And with the knowledge and consent, direction, approval, and ratification of each other's acts, omission, and conduct on or about September 12th, 2022 at the Chalice Recording Studio. And there's an address which we cannot read or say, so I'm getting it off the screen. So this is all going to be, again, about the shooting that happened at the studio. And
Rochelle's my teacher. She lets me know, hey, we can skip some of this because it's just repeating itself.
It truly is. A lot of
No,
it is.
that's why I appreciate you, though.
And then, so we're going to go to 297th, the 9th cause of action, aiding and abetting and inducing a S traffic venture in violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. So this is all going to be about how they would go to that club, make sure they were wearing the hat so people knew who they were. So this is just outlining all the case laws for the Protection Act. So it's just, wow, this is, you actually could have broke this down in so many different. Then we're going to go to 315.
You know what, Rochelle? Coming from the law side of it, I can say that the reason that every single one of these things is listed out individually, right, is to make sure that all, like, that saying, like, you throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much what it has to be. It's like you want every single detail, you want every single instance, you want every single one of these things to be known, so that way you have more to work with.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I absolutely agree. But as for you reading this out, like your viewers after a while be like, we heard this.
I agree. No, I'm agreeing with you on us going ahead and skipping things that are like just repeating. I agree with you on that. I'm just stating, because others might think like, why is this so damn long, right? And I'm just, for that, I'm saying the reason that this is so long is because you are going to put in every single thing that happened, or you are going to put in every instance. And then on top of those instances, you kind of have to break those down. So it's going to repeat itself because you have to make sure you have everything in there. That's all I was saying. But I agree with you on skipping some of it that repeats.
Yeah. And so the 10th cause of action is for SA, and it's against Jane Doe 1, Young Miami's cousin. Yet again, this is probably the part where she followed him out of the bathroom and just started undressing and straddling him.
The malicious, willful, cruel, entitling the plaintiff to punitive damages. So we can go on from there.
Yeah. So then the 11th cause of action is again SA, but this one is against Mr. Combs. And this is all about how Mr. Combs was.
That we haven't read.
No, we have, because he was doing bodily harm to Mr. Jones, and he was fondling him and things like that. So this is just breaking.
And that's why I'm glad you're here, because I was reading so quickly through it that some of those points I missed. So I'm glad that you were like, nope, we did already read this.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wait, we didn't read about necessarily Mr. Combs's conduct. We just know he's a violent person from other stuff. So I'm glad you said that.
So yeah, this is just breaking it down more, and it's talking about how he will suffer and will continue to suffer severe emotional distress over this. And the 12th cause of action is for SA. And again, it's against Jane Doe, Young Miami's cousin. And again, this is more breakdown of how she essayed him. How, as a direct and proximate result of Jane Doe 1's extreme and outrageous conduct, plaintiff has suffered severe and emotional distress. So then we go to 331, which is the 13th cause of SA against Mr. Combs. And again, it's about Mr. Jones and how the
Well,
SA,
yeah.
the SA and misconduct by Mr. Combs were extremely and outrageous conduct that shocks consciousness. These actions were taken with the intent to cause or disregard for the substantial probability of causing severe emotional distress. So all these are just breaking down what he's been through.
So we can move on.
Yeah, the
Because again,
14th.
he's just repeating it.
That's it. That's
So
the
at this
14th.
point, we're really just towards the end of this entire lawsuit. We are summing up what has already been said.
That's exactly it. 14th cause of action, knowing beneficiary is a S trafficking venture in violation of the trafficking victims. Now, this is outlining the defendant, Lucian Charles Grainage and Ethiopia H, Motown Records, Love Records, Universal Music Group, knowingly and intentionally benefited financially from these S traffickings.
And when they say that, I have a feeling that they're talking about the fact that the music or the things that were going on was because it was done in their buildings, but they were making money off of the time being spent in there.
That's right. That they knew. And then so I am now at 67. And again, it's just all that way is just breaking down how each company made money from that.
Yep. So again, like I said, basically it's because not necessarily that obviously I'm not saying that Diddy Studios, that's not what I mean when I say these studios. When I say these studios, I'm talking about like say ABC or Universal or any other studio like that. Not necessarily saying that they knew what Diddy was doing inside of the studio, but they were the ones that facilitated the facility for the time.
Well, and that being said, we have not seen any of these cause of actions yet that absolutely names ABC. They're all naming the other
Well,
ones.
in this lawsuit, they are a defendant.
Yeah, no, I get they are a defendant. What I was saying is, in none of the cause actions right now have they outlined ABC. They're outlining Motown Records, Love
You're
Records,
right.
Universal Music Group, but they're not saying ABC yet.
So if we go down further, do you think they might?
So they may, because they're for some reason they're named, so they've got
Right.
to. But so the 15th cause of action is obstruction of enforcement and trafficking victim protection act. So again, this is all going to be alleging like that gunshot, things like that, things that happen in their buildings.
Right. And that honestly would be the only thing that, and again, I'm not talking about Diddy's businesses or his studios, but when it comes down to Universal or ABC or Motown, I would say that the only thing they're liable for is the fact that it happened inside of their studios.
That's right.
Just like when it comes down to Courtney Clinny or the OnlyFans model, when you look at the building that she lived in where all of this abuse was taking place, where people were seeing it, that's why there's a lawsuit against that building too. So you're going to see those things coming out, not because they were part of these crimes, but because they facilitated the building.
Well, so, and in the 15th cause of action here, you see them again, name Motown Records, Love Records, Universal Music, and that stuff. So these people, they are alleging at this point were actually involved in the crimes.
That's crazy to me because I wouldn't think, Again, like I said, I'm not talking about Diddy's businesses necessarily, but the other ones. So I wouldn't think that they would be pulled into being part of, but that's just that's just me having to do more research.
Yes.
Because it's surprising that they're being pulled into the actual crime part of it rather than just being the facilitating part of it.
So then we go down to page 76, which is count 16, breach of oral contract. And this is against Love Records and Sean Combs. Mr. Jones incorporates by reference all preceding paragraphs and realleges them as if set forth fully herein. Plaintiff Jones and defendant Mr. Combs and LR had an oral contract for Mr. Jones to receive $20,000 for every song he produced on the Love album. Mr. Combs agreed to allow Mr. Jones to keep his publishing as well as 4 royalty points per song and to credit him as a producer for every song that he touched, as well as credit him for each instrument he played. Mr. Jones fully executed his obligations under the contract when he produced Deliver Me, Stay, Part 1, Reachin', What's Love, Stay a While, Moments, Need Somebody, Homecoming, and Tough Love. Mr. Jones worked on the following songs: Brought My Love and Creepin' Remix. Mr. Jones lived and traveled with Mr. Combs from September 22 to October 23. Through the duration of that time, Mr. Combs did not compensate Mr. Jones for his time or the work he did on the above mentioned songs. So then again, this is just Mr. Jones talking about which money.
So then I'll read the prayer for relief, and then I think we are almost done after that. So when you're ready, I'll go ahead and read that.
Let's go right ahead.
Okay. So the prayer for relief is, wherefore plaintiff prays that the court enter a judgment in her favor and against defendants containing the following relief: a declaratory judgment that the actions, conduct, and practices of defendants complained of herein violate the laws of the state of New York. An award of damages against defendant in an amount to be determined at trial, plus prejudgment interest to compensate plaintiff for all monetary and or economic damages, including but not limited to loss of past and future income, wages, compensation, seniority, and other benefits of employment. An award of damages against defendant in an amount to be determined at trial, plus prejudgment interest to compensate plaintiff for all non-monetary and or compensatory damages, including but not limited to compensation for, and I don't know why it's saying her, but I'm going to read it as it is, for her mental anguish, humiliation, embarrassment, stress and anxiety, emotional pain and suffering, and emotional distress. An award of punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Prejudgment interest on all amounts due. An award of costs that plaintiff has incurred in this action, including but not limited to expert witnesses' fees, as well as plaintiff's reasonable attorney's fees and costs to the fullest extent permitted by law. Okay, so I think that on this one, for the most part, it's just going over what they're asking for. So such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper. And then after that, we go down to that. And this is really just basically setting forth that it has been filed and electronically stored and all of that, and thank yous and stuff to that level. So there's not much else after that. It's literally, the rest of it is just the formal wording for the lawsuit. So what do you think, Rochelle? Before we, honestly, I want to know what you think is going to come out from this in the newest stuff that's happening.
I'm not, well, to be straight up and honest, I haven't followed the newest of this yet. I haven't looked into it because I knew there was a lot of essay. and that's very triggering to me.
It is. I'm sorry.
So I really have not even turned on P. Diddy at all, because I was really I was warned prior that this is probably not something you want to listen to or any of that. So
And to be fair, had I actually been able to read all of this, I wouldn't have asked you to come on because of everything that's in it. I didn't realize how graphic it was going. I knew it was going to be graphic, but I didn't know to the extent that it was going to be graphic. And so I apologize to you, but I so appreciate you coming on here because I can't see out of one of my eyes right now. So I appreciate you helping me read through this.
that's okay. I persevered through it. I pushed through it. I did have to walk away for a minute,
You can
and
walk away anytime you want to.
Just so your viewers know, I am a recent SA survivor, so it was quite more triggering. But I think you're going to. I hate to say this. I think people are going to. P. Diddy is going to be in a lot of trouble.
I hope
They
so.
they have to. They have to. For the fact is,
really quickly, Rochelle, I'm sorry. Really quickly, Emily, thank you for reading part of it because I can't read. You can say bye. Say bye. Goodbye. My pre-med student who I woke up to read part of what I couldn't read.
so
Anyways.
He's going to go down for this. There's no doubt about it. But he's going down alone, in my opinion. There's too much corruption. You're going to have a lot of these, unless this mystery person that has all these recordings, all of this, if they get a hold of that. But I would say, because this was filed in March,
right, and so it's still, in the terms of it being a civil lawsuit, it's still a new. I'm surprised that he didn't settle like he did with Cassie, because he settled one day after Cassie's.
You need a follow-up on this to let people know if this case was settled.
It hasn't been yet. That's why I will, but it hasn't been settled yet that I know of, that I have found. And that's why I'm really surprised, because with Cassie's, Diddy and his attorneys settled one day after she filed.
Yeah,
so I'm really surprised.
There's a lot of police corruption. There's a lot of higher up corruption. So I would assume that unless the new charges and the new filings against him reawake, I think this has gone dormant. If you want my opinion, I would be really interested in finding out where this is in the court case, where it's standing.
Right.
Because I'm almost betting this one is gone dormant.
I'll tell you why. If it's gone, in my opinion, at least, after going through this with you and reading it, and again, I'm sorry because I didn't read it before I asked you to read it with me. In my opinion, I think that he may have been sitting back because he could be one of those victims. Because again, in the indictment, it says victims, persons. There's a plural there. And so I almost think that he might, and I'm not guaranteeing it because I don't know, but he could be one of the victims. Yeah, and if he is, that could be why this has kind of gone silent for a minute.
But like you said, this is a civil.
It is.
So the fact is, this civil could have awakened the criminal charges.
Right.
And this civil could be on hold until the criminal charges go forth.
I think that when there's a difference between when you're, I'm sure you know, there's a difference between a criminal and a civil charge, right?
Yeah.
And so when somebody has been convicted, so let's say when the newest actual charges that he's in jail for right now, right? When those are done and he has been, which I would think he's definitely going to be convicted with all of the evidence that I've seen. Again, I'm not one of the jurors, so I can't guarantee it. But I think that this man's going to be indicted, or he's already been indicted. I'm sorry. I think that he's going to be found guilty.
Guaranteed.
Right. But we could be wrong because we never know the jurors. But I think that when it comes down to this, and I know you've got something coming up soon, so we'll wrap it up. But I think that when it comes down to the criminal and the civil, if he is found guilty, right, or when he's found guilty, however you want to word it, when Mr. Jones comes back and they go to court with the civil, it actually is going to be a stronger case, a stronger civil case. And he will win this one too. So the reason that is stalled is what I'm saying.
Here's my opinion on this. My opinion is Mr. Jones knew this was coming down. So he went and got out there ahead of the game and filed his civil suit. Because
remember, Rochelle, remember that and I don't think that because you don't get the notifications, but in the interview that I showed in one of my last videos, it was an interview with Diddy's attorney, and Diddy's attorney sat there talking about how he knew in March that this was going to happen, right? So therefore, obviously, Mr. Jones also knew in March, which is when this is filed.
So what I'm saying is what he's done is because there's going to be a lot of people that come out of the woodwork. And by rights, they should feel safe enough to come out of the woodwork. And Mr. Jones,
numbers, right?
Mr. Jones was strong enough to be that first person, which I applaud him for. So what is going to happen to this lawsuit, this civil lawsuit, is he's going to have plaintiffs added to his lawsuit. So you're going to see this
very strong. That may be.
You're going to see this lawsuit grow because that's what happens. He was brave enough to be the first one, so he put in the lawsuit, and now once this goes ahead, this where we are with Diddy right now, people are going to come out and feel that they are empowered enough to speak and not be scared to come forth. So then this one that we went through today is going to be expanded.
Hey, Rochelle, just read that one real quick just because it's cute.
Thank you so much, Kendall.
I was going to say, you know what? I give a lot of respect to Mr. Jones because it is not always, most of the time, it is not always easy, or it's not easy for a straight man to come out and say that this was done to them when it's another male perpetrator. So I give him a lot of credit for coming out and saying, hey, this is what this man did to me.
Absolutely. And as you can see, this happened in 2022, 2023. Exactly. So he has had to have some recovery time. So for anybody out there that might say, oh, well, he waited till 2024 to file this. Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Exactly. Because how long would it take you to come out and say, hey, this happened to me? Because I could tell you that for myself, I needed time to be able to say, this is what happened to me. And I don't speak about things that happen to me publicly because there's still things that I'm working through.
I was in a different situation. I actually, as soon as I escaped, I said what happened to me. But I was in a very different situation. I had to get help. So I needed medical help. So that,
I give you credit for that too, though. Even though you did it because you needed medical help, Rochelle, you did it because you needed to do it, and you're still strong for that. So I give you credit.
But I do give Mr. Jones real credit for this. I'd like to know who Mr. Jones is.
You know what? Rodney Jones, like I said, he's a music producer now, and you can look him up. He's not hidden. He's well known. So
well, if by any chance you come across his email, please send it to me because I would like to thank him for being strong, and I'd like to let him know that he's not alone. And I just want to send him a thank you letter for being strong enough to stand up to power.
You know me. I love research. I
So
love digging.
if you find that, please send it to me because I will reach out to him. I will thank him for standing up to power. It's greatly appreciated. So, but yeah, so that being said, I do have to say goodbye.
Dude, so I want to say to you, thank you so much for helping me with this because my migraine. I appreciate everything you have done so far, Rochelle, to help me with everything that I am trying to put together.
Absolutely.
And you are so much appreciated and loved by me. And I appreciate everybody who watched. And I will end it. Thank you so much, Rochelle.
And just let your viewers know that at 9 o'clock I'm going live on my channel. So
That's right, Rochelle. Go ahead and give them your information, just so that way
I can't.
it's out there.
I can't post it.
I will post it. Just give me a sec. As you're talking, I'm going to pull it up right now, and I'm gonna put it in the thing.
I'm a true crime channel where we discuss different trials. We've recently, mostly we just discussed the Adelsons, but tonight we're moving on to Sarah Boone because her trial is coming up. Did you post that in YouTube or on StreamYard?
You know what? I think it's on my stream because you know what? You haven't taught me how to do it in both. I will go back and post it in YouTube, but right now I posted it in the StreamYard because I don't know how to have them both open at the same time. You haven't taught me that yet.
Okay, so what you do is you go into your. I'll do that later. Don't worry about it right now.
You're not going to tell me how to do it.
I do true crime. Adelson's, we're jumping into Sarah Boone because her trial starts October 7th. So
I'm covering that too, but not yet because I'm still pulling all my information together. But Rochelle has done an amazing job on the, for anybody who doesn't know, the Adelson case. Go ahead. Like, she's amazing. Rochelle is amazing.
I would be very shocked if you're going to have time for Sarah Boone because this case looks like
I'm trying. I have so much information on Sarah Boone already. I have documents I pulled up. I'm the queen of research. I have so much on her, but I haven't had time. I'm trying.
This case is moving and changing every day. I check it out, and I cannot believe new information that's coming out every single day.
Every minute. I started this morning when I first got up, and I was going to do. I actually have my notes here. I was like talking about other people that may be involved in this, or maybe other defendants in this, and everything else. And then I found the Jones lawsuit, and I was like, oh, wait, we're gonna. You know what? Just give me a minute. You know, it's every day is nonstop. I'm trying. Like I said, I have lots of information on Sarah Boone. If you want it, you can have it.
Either or, it doesn't matter. Like, do what you feel is right. I'm just saying, I would really hate to see you fall behind on this because this is moving every single day.
I'm on it. But Rochelle, I did, just so you know, in my description, I also have your channel there.
Okay, thank you.
On YouTube. So anybody who wants to, definitely, I would suggest that you go over to her channel because she is amazing.
And that being said, thank you all for joining Crimes Untangled. I appreciate your support for Crimes Untangled. And I will say goodbye because I have an hour to eat to get ready for my show.
All right, Rochelle, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I will see you in an hour.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.